Welcome, dear listener. The day is ending now, and you have arrived at this moment of rest. Let the world beyond this moment fade, like mist dissolving under the first soft touch of morning light. Feel your body begin to sink, ever so gently, into the surface beneath you. Notice how gravity feels more like a quiet embrace than a pull, a reassuring weight that reminds you that you are here. You are safe, and you are allowed to let go. The air around you feels still, with only the faintest whisper of movement, as if the atmosphere itself is encouraging you to slow down. Take a slow, full breath in, letting the air fill your lungs in a smooth, steady wave. Then release it, unhurried, like a soft sigh at the end of a long day. Again, breathing in and breathing out. With each cycle, your body loosens, your shoulders settle lower, your jaw softens, and your arms and legs begin to feel pleasantly heavy. You may notice a slight warmth in your hands or feet, a signal that your body has begun its gentle shift toward rest as you breathe. I invite you to imagine that you are not here in this room, but on the edge of a vast green landscape, somewhere far away, far back in time, in a place where the wind carries the scent of earth and ocean, where the sky stretches wide and open. Tonight, we will journey to the island of Ireland, not as it is now, but as it was nearly 2 centuries ago. The year is 1845, and a quiet countryside awaits you. But there is a shadow on the horizon, a shadow that history remembers as one of hardship, loss, and endurance. The Great Irish Potato Famine. Do not worry. Our time together will not be one of pain or fear. This will be a calm walk through the past, where we will see the world as it was, with its cottages of whitewashed stone, its narrow winding lanes, its rolling hills of green stretching toward the sea. We will hear the songs that drifted through small village gatherings, smell the smoke from turf fires, and taste the simple warm bread that came from humble kitchen hearths. But we will also feel the stillness, the deep, aching quiet that comes when life changes, when seasons shift, when food becomes scarce and neighbors watch the fields with worried eyes. As we begin, keep breathing gently. Allow the rhythm of your breath to match the slow rise and fall of the imagined sea nearby. Waves drift in, touch the shore, then slide back out, never rushing, never hurried. Imagine those waves are carrying away the lingering tension from your day. With every inhale, you take in calm. With every exhale, you let go of what you no longer need. The Ireland of the mid-19th century was a land of contrasts, beauty and hardship, community and solitude. The air was damp and fresh, carrying both the scent of wildflowers from the hedgerows and the salt of the Atlantic winds. The cottages stood close to the land, their roofs thatched in golden straw, their walls thick to keep out the cold. Inside, the light was warm but dim, cast by the glow of peat fires that burned slow and steady. Families would gather near these fires in the evenings, speaking softly, telling stories of old legends and local news, their voices a comfort against the uncertainty that lay beyond their doors. You might imagine yourself standing now at the edge of a small field. The soil beneath your boots is dark and rich, the kind that has fed generations. But tonight, the plants are still, as though holding their breath. Beyond the field, the landscape dips and rises, dotted with stone fences that have stood for centuries. Sheep graze on the hills, their shapes barely visible in the fading light. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once, then falls silent again. The whole land seems to be listening, and you too are listening, not only with your ears, but with something deeper. You are listening with the part of you that senses quiet history. You are aware that these paths, these stones, these fields have held the footsteps of countless lives before you. People have laughed here, wept here, worked and rested here. And now, for a little while, you are walking among them. Take another breath, slow and steady. The wind brushes against your cheek, cool and carrying the faint, sweet smell of clover. Overhead, the sky is shifting into twilight, that soft in-between. Time when the light fades gently and stars begin to appear one by one. In this moment, there is no rush. The story will unfold like the turning of an old, well-loved page in the months and years ahead in this history. The potato crops, once abundant and dependable, will fail, stricken by a blight that turns their leaves black and their roots to rot. It will come quietly at first, a whisper in the villages, and then more loudly as harvest after harvest is lost. But tonight, we are at the beginning. We are standing at the threshold when the green still covers the fields, when the air still carries the scent of healthy earth. It is a moment balanced between what has been and what is to come. For now, we walk, slowly, step by step, through the narrow lane leading into a village. The cottages here are close together, smoke rising from their chimneys. A few voices call out in Irish Gaelic, warm and familiar, though the words may not be known to you. A cart passes slowly, it's wooden, wheels creaking over the stones, pulled by a small, sturdy horse. The driver nods politely as he passes, and you feel the quiet bond of neighborliness, that unspoken connection between people who share the same land, the same challenges, the same small joys. As you move deeper into this moment, let your breath and the rhythm of your imagined footsteps carry you further into stillness. You are here, but you are also drifting towards sleep. You can feel it at the edges of your awareness, that gentle pull towards something softer, quieter, warmer. The story will be here to guide you, even as your thoughts begin to blur, even as the images fade into dreams. And so, with the night gathering above the Irish countryside and the scent of peat smoke curling in the air, our journey begins. We will walk through the heart of this history together, unhurried, safe, and deeply at peace. The lane beneath your feet narrows slightly, the stones now damp with the evening dew. Your boots make a soft, muted sound as they press into the earth and gravel. Somewhere nearby, the quiet trickle of water can be heard, a narrow stream, winding its way between the fields, glinting faintly in the dimming light. The stream's song is slow and patient, weaving its way into the rhythm of your breath, into the quiet music of this imagined evening ahead. You see the faint glow of lanterns inside a cluster of cottages. The light spills gently through small, square windows, softening the edges of the stone walls. It is the kind of glow that suggests warmth inside a fire burning low. Bread cooling on a wooden board, voices murmuring together in the calm routine of a long day's end. The smell of turf smoke is stronger here, mingling with the earthy scent of damp soil and the faint sweetness of drying hay to your left. A low stone wall runs alongside the lane, its top covered in thick moss. Your fingertips graze, its cool, rough surface as you walk. Beyond it, in the dim light, you catch sight of a small garden plot. Stalks of cabbage and rows of carrots grow neatly within its boundaries, the leaves shivering slightly in the gentle wind. A cat moves silently between them, its eyes glinting for a moment before it slips out of view. The details are small, but together they form a complete living world. In this place, life is simple, yet every small act carries weight. A loaf of bread baked in the morning may feed the family for days. A healthy cow might mean enough milk for the winter. A well-tended field can determine whether there will be joy or worry when the harvest comes. Tonight, all is as it should be. Though under the surface, there is always the awareness of how fragile it can be, how quickly the balance can shift. You pause near the largest cottage in the lane. The thatched roof bends low toward the earth, as if the house itself is leaning in to listen to the conversations within. From the open doorway drifts the faint sound of a fiddle being played, not loudly, but with a gentle, steady rhythm. The tune is a simple one, perhaps a melody that has been passed down for generations. It carries both joy and a kind of wistfulness, like a memory that is both sweet and bittersweet. The music blends with the faint hiss and pop of a peat fire, and together they make the night feel even softer. Imagine stepping inside for a moment. The floor is made of packed earth, smooth from years of careful sweeping. A single table stands in the center, worn but sturdy. Around it sit a few wooden stools, their surfaces polished by use. The fire glows in the hearth and the kettle above. It lets out a slow, steady hiss as it warms water for tea. The air is warmer here, touched by the comforting scent of boiled potatoes, fresh bread, and smoke. A woman sits near the hearth, mending a shirt by the firelight. Her hands move slowly and precisely, each stitch adding strength to the cloth. Across the room, a young boy watches the flames, his eyes half-lidded in the drowsy warmth. This is the Ireland you have stepped into, a land of small details, each essential to daily life. The fields outside, the hearth inside, the shared meals, the neighborly greetings. These are the threads that hold the fabric of the community together. And yet, in the seasons to come, those threads will be tested, stretched thin by hunger and loss. But not tonight. Tonight, the threads hold strong. You step back outside, the cool night air wrapping around you again. Above, the first stars have fully claimed their places in the sky. They glimmer softly, like pinpricks of light scattered across a deep blue velvet cloth. The moon is not yet high, but its pale glow touches the tops of the hills, painting them in silver. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls low and slow, a sound that seems to linger in the air long after it is made. Your path now takes you out beyond the cottages, toward the open fields that lie under the wide sky. The grass is soft underfoot, bending easily with each step. You can hear it rustle in the wind, each blade moving in its own gentle arc. In the distance, the dark shapes of hedgerows form patterns against the horizon, dividing the land into quiet, ordered spaces. The smell here is fresher, the wind carrying the salt of the nearby sea, in the stillness of the open land. It is easier to imagine the history beneath your feet. These fields have been farmed for centuries, worked by hands that shaped the soil, sowed the seeds, and waited for the harvest. Generations have lived and died on this land, their lives bound to its rhythms. In the evenings, they too would have stood here, perhaps leaning on a wooden gate, looking out at the same hills, feeling the same breeze you pause to lean against. Such a gate now, the wood smooth and cool under your hands. You can hear the quiet chewing of cattle nearby, their dark forms moving slowly through the grass. The sound is steady, unhurried, as though the animals themselves are part of the land's deep patience. The night around you is hushed, but not empty. It is filled with the small, almost hidden sounds of life continuing. As you breathe in this air, you may begin to feel even heavier in your body. The good, grounding kind of heaviness that tells you you're ready to sink deeper into rest. Your shoulders drop a little more. Your eyelids feel a fraction heavier. The rhythm of your breath is slow, steady, even. You might notice that the space between your thoughts is growing larger, as if your mind itself is beginning to quiet, matching the stillness of the land. This is how the story will carry you tonight, not through sudden movement or sharp changes, but through the slow unfolding of a journey. We'll walk the fields and lanes of Ireland, the lives of its people in times of beauty and times of trial, and all the while, you will be invited to drift closer to sleep. The images may blur, the details may soften, but the feeling of being here will remain calm, safe, and unhurried. You leave the gate now and follow a narrow path toward the sound of the sea. The wind grows cooler, carrying with it the low, rhythmic roar of waves against the shore. Soon, the fields give way to a stretch of dark sand, and you stand at the edge of the Atlantic. The water moves in long, slow lines, each wave rolling in, pausing as foam spreads across the shore, then sliding back into the deep. The moonlight glimmers faintly on the water's surface. It's catching here and there like threads of silver. Standing here, the scale of the sea makes the land behind you feel small, the village a tiny cluster of lights in the distance. And yet, you know that life there, the laughter, the meals, the worries, the hopes, is as real and vast to its people as the ocean is to the world. The sea, too, holds its history. Ships have left these shores, carrying people to faraway lands in search of better lives, carrying goods to trade, carrying news that will change the course of years to come. In the famine years ahead, many will take this path away from Ireland, their eyes fixed on distant horizons. But tonight, we stand still. Let the sound of the waves move through you now, in rhythm with your breath. Inhale with the swell of the water. Exhale with its retreat. Imagine the tide carrying away any remaining tension in your body, leaving only calm in its place. The air tastes faintly of salt, cool and pure. Your breath feels deeper, easier, as though the sea itself is breathing with you. When you turn back toward the village, the path feels even quieter than before. The cottages are darker now, lanterns extinguished for the night, fires banked low in their hearths. The music has stopped, replaced by the soft murmur of voices behind closed doors and the occasional creak of settling wood. The whole village seems wrapped in the same blanket of stillness that is settling over you now. You walk slowly back along the lane, past the mossy wall, past the garden, past the quiet doorways. Each step feels a little slower, a little heavier, not from weariness, but from the deep relaxation that has taken hold. You are returning to the center of the story, to the point where we will begin to truly explore the life and times of this place, its people, its hardships, and the endurance that carried them through. And so, as you come to the end of this lane, the night wrapped gently around you, you are ready. Ready to step into the heart of 1840s Ireland, ready to walk through history with unhurried steps, and ready, if you wish, to drift in and out of sleep as the journey unfolds. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself standing on a quiet lane in Ireland. Sometime in the early 1840s, the century is only halfway through. But here in this countryside, time seems to move more slowly, as though the modern rush of the outside world has not yet found its way across the hills. The lane beneath your feet is narrow, made of compacted earth with patches of gravel, and bordered on both sides by low, uneven stone walls. Moss and tiny wildflowers grow in the cracks their roots, finding the smallest pockets of soil between the stones. The walls do not run in perfect straight lines, but curve gently with the lay of the land, as though shaped by the hands of generations who cared more about keeping sheep in than keeping symmetry. On one side of the lane, a hedgerow grows thick and unruly. It is alive with sound, a chorus of birds singing to greet the morning. The trill of a wren, the clear fluting notes of a blackbird, and the occasional chatter of a magpie weave together into a melody that belongs entirely to the countryside. Every so often, you hear the rustle of leaves as something small, perhaps a rabbit, darts deeper into the greenery. The air is fresh and clean, touched with the faint sweetness of grass still wet from last night's dew. Beneath that, there's the earthy smell of turf smoke drifting from the chimneys of cottages scattered through the fields. Turf, cut from the bogs and left to dry in tidy stacks, burns with a distinct aroma, deep, almost sweet and unmistakably Irish. Even from a distance, you can tell which way the wind is carrying it. You begin to walk, and the sound of your steps on the lane is soft, muffled by the dirt beneath you. Somewhere ahead, a rooster crows, its voice ringing out across the fields. In the distance, you can just make out the faint clang of metal, perhaps a farmer working on a gate, or the smith in the next village tending to a shoe for a horse. To your left, the land rises gently toward a low hill, the slopes patched with grazing sheep. Their wool looks almost golden in the morning light. and their heads lift briefly to watch you pass before returning to the slow, steady business of eating. Beyond them, the hilltops are crowned with gorse bushes, their small yellow flowers adding bright splashes of color against the green dot to your right. A small potato plot stretches toward the horizon. The plants are short now. Their leaves are rich, healthy green, trembling slightly in the breeze. Pale flowers, star-shaped and delicate, the tops of the plants. For now, they grow undisturbed, promising the bounty that will be dug up later in the year. Each neat row of earth represents hours of labor, cutting seed potatoes, planting them at the right depth, covering them with soil, tending them through the spring and summer months. The potatoes are more than food here. They are security. They are the difference between a winter of full bellies and one of gnawing hunger. Families have worked these plots for years, some on land their ancestors cleared themselves, others on ground rented from landlords who live far away, perhaps never setting foot on the very soil that sustains their tenants. You continue walking until the lane dips and curves into a small cluster of cottages, the heart of a rural village. They are built from stone gathered from the surrounding fields, their walls thick enough to hold in the warmth of the hearth. Some have been whitewashed, the pale lime standing out brightly against the green of the fields, while others show the bare stone weathered and darkened by the years. The roofs are thatched with straw, layered thick to keep out the rain. From each chimney, a ribbon of smoke curls upward, dissolving into the morning sky. Small square windows, their glass slightly rippled from the way it was made, reflect the light. In some, you catch the faint movement of someone inside. Beginning the day's work, a narrow stream winds through the village, its water clear and cold. Women kneel at the bank, scrubbing clothes against smooth stones, their sleeves rolled too. The elbow, the soft rhythm of their work blends with their voices as they speak in low tones, their words carried away on the breeze. A child laughs nearby, splashing a stick in the water while his mother shakes her head, smiling despite herself. You pass one cottage where a man is repairing a section of the low wall that surrounds his small yard. His hands are rough and strong, the skin lined from years of labor. He nods as you pass, offering a brief greeting before returning to the careful placement of each stone. In this world, walls are not simply boundaries. They are the product of patience and skill, meant to last for decades. Farther along, you see a small cart pulled by a single sturdy pony. The cart creaks as it moves, the wooden wheels worn smooth by years of use. In it are bundles of firewood and 2 sacks of grain, likely bound for a neighbor or perhaps the small market in the next town. The driver, a young man with dark hair, curling under his cap, whistles as he guides the pony along the lane. Everywhere you look, life is unfolding at its own unhurried pace. Children carry buckets of water from the stream. A woman scatters grain for a handful of chickens scratching in the dirt. An elderly man sits on a low stool outside his cottage, carving a piece of wood with a small, sharp knife. The shavings fall into a neat pile at his feet. The village is small enough that everyone knows each other's names, and most can tell you the stories of one another's families. If someone is ill, a neighbor will arrive with broth. If a wall collapses in a storm, hands will gather to rebuild it. Survival here depends not only on the land, but on the strength of the bonds between people. Now, follow the lane as it leaves the village and rises toward open fields. The sky is vast here, stretching in every direction, the clouds moving slowly in the steady wind that rolls in from the sea. The light changes constantly, one moment bright and clear, the next softened by a veil of cloud. From the crest of the hill, you can see more of the landscape. Patchwork fields divided by stone walls and hedges, small stands of trees, the silver thread of a river winding toward a distant lake. The hills beyond fade into blue, their shapes softened by distance. Somewhere far off, you can just make out the glint of sunlight on water, where the sea meets the edge of the land. The soundscape here is gentle but alive, the bleat of sheep, the rustle of wind through the grass, the call of a curlew from somewhere unseen. Every so often, the faint sound of a human voice carries across the fields, a reminder that even in the open expanse, you are never truly alone. You pause for a moment, breathing in the air. It is cooler here, touched with the salt of the sea, the scent of grass and earth mingling with it. In the distance, a farmer walks slowly behind a horse-drawn plow, the dark soil turning in smooth, even furrows. The rhythm of his work is steady, unbroken, as it has been for countless seasons before. In this moment, you feel the weight of time in the land. Not a heavy burden, but a deep, steady presence. These fields have seen centuries of planting and harvesting, of storms and clear skies, of hardship and celebration. The same wind that touches your face now has passed over the faces of those who came before, carrying with it the same sense, the same shifting light, and though history will soon bring great change to this place, for now the countryside rests in its quiet cycles. The people work, the fields grow, and life moves to the ancient rhythm of the seasons. Hold on to this scene, the lane, the cottages, the open sky, for it is the Ireland of 1840. Still whole, still unbroken, still full of the everyday beauty that has sustained its people for generations. As the morning lengthens, the quiet rhythm of the village becomes more pronounced. You walk further into its center, where a slightly wider stretch of the lane acts as a natural gathering place. Here, there is no formal marketplace with neat rows of stalls. Instead, trade happens in the open air, in the steady, practical flow of conversation and exchange. A woman arrives with a woven basket balanced carefully on her hip. Inside are eggs, still warm from the morning's collection, nestled in a layer of straw to keep them from cracking. She greets a neighbor who has a bundle of fresh rushes tied together with twine. These will be used for floor covering or plaited into mats. They speak in a mix of English and Irish, their voices soft and measured, the cadence of their words as familiar to each other as the hills around them, not far from them. A man leads a cow into the shade near the edge of the stream. The animal shifts its weight slowly, hooves pressing into the damp earth. A tin pail rests at the man's feet, and in time, the sound of milk striking metal joins the background music of village life, a steady liquid rhythm that could almost lull you into stillness if you paused long enough to listen. Above the village, a church steeple rises, not tall and grand like those in the cities, but modest and plain, its stones darkened by years of weather. The bell, when it rings, is a deep, rounded sound carrying across the fields to signal the hour or call the community together. For many here, Sunday service is as much a social anchor as it is a spiritual one, a time when distant neighbors meet, exchange news, and quietly assess one another's fortunes and health. The village schoolhouse sits a short walk from the church. It is a single-room building with a turf roof and small windows to let in the light. Inside, the air carries the faint, chalky scent of lime wash and the sharper tanks of ink. A handful of children sit at rough wooden benches, their slates before them, working through their lessons. The schoolmaster moves between them, his steps slow and deliberate, the heels of his boots clicking against the floor. For many of these children, schooling is a rare privilege, snatched between seasons of agricultural labor. In the warmer months, attendance thins as hands are needed in the fields, but in winter, when the days shorten and work slows, the benches fill again. If you wander further from the center of the village, you'll find the homes of those who live on the edges, small farmsteads with a patch of cultivated land, perhaps a pig or two, and a cart propped against a wall. These families are self-reliant in many ways, producing what they can and trading for what they cannot make themselves. In the leaner months, it is not unusual for one household to quietly slip a portion of grain or butter to another. That is, struggling. Such acts are rarely spoken of openly. Generosity here carries no need for public recognition, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing the community endures together. Life in the early 1840s moves with the turning of the seasons. In spring, the fields stir with planting. You can imagine the steady rows of potato shoots pushing through the soil, the green, bright, and fresh against the dark brown earth. Wheat, barley, and oats grow in other plots, their young blades trembling in the wind. In summer, meadows burst into color, thick with wildflowers that hum with bees. Haymaking becomes the dominant task, the cut grass drying in the sun before being gathered into great fragrant stacks to feed livestock through the winter. Autumn brings the harvest, carts heavy with potatoes, baskets of apples, fields cleared, and the soil turned for the next planting. This is the time of year when the air is thick with the smell of earth and wood smoke, when evenings come earlier and kitchens glow warmly against the growing darkness. Inside, the hearth is always alive. The fire banked high for cooking and heat. Iron pots hang over the flames, simmering with simple, sustaining meals, perhaps a thick stew of vegetables, or porridge made from oats and milk. Winter is quieter, but no less full. The fields rest, though livestock still need tending. Snow, when it falls, drapes the stone walls and thatched roofs in white, muffling the sounds of the village. Indoors, work shifts to mending clothes, weaving, and telling stories by the fire. These stories are often old tales of warriors, saints, and strange happenings in the hills, and they are told in the same way they were 100 years before the words shaped by the storyteller's voice, the firelight flickering across listening faces. Beyond the physical rhythms of life, the early 1840s in Ireland carry another layer, one of quiet, underlying tension. For many families, the land they farm is not their own. Rents must be paid to landlords who may live in distant towns or even across the sea. A poor harvest can mean the difference between paying on time or falling into debt. Yet, for all the challenges, the people here continue to draw strength from the land, their faith, and each other. Social gatherings often revolve around music and dance. On certain evenings, a cottage might fill with neighbors. Someone will take out a fiddle, another a flute, and soon the room will be alive with jigs and reels. Feet tap against the packed earth floor, hands clap in time, and the music spirals into the air, bright and unrestrained. Laughter rises easily in these moments, as if the weight of work and worry has been momentarily set aside. Even those who do not dance watch with warm eyes, letting the rhythm seep into their bones. The Irish language still flows here, especially among the older generations. It carries with it an ancient music of its own, a lilting rise and fall that seems to match the contours of the land. Many switch easily between Irish and English, depending on who they are speaking to, but certain expressions remain stubbornly in Irish, impossible to translate without losing their heart. If you step outside the village and follow the road east, you'll pass into lands shaped by older history still. Ruined abbeys stand in silence, their stones softened by moss and weather. Circular stone forts rise unexpectedly from the fields, reminders of centuries long past. In the distance, you may spot the tall, slender form of a round tower built long ago to guard against raiders. These ancient structures seem to watch over the land, connecting the present to a deep and storied past. Nature, too, leaves its mark. The boglands stretch in dark, spongy expanses where peat is cut and stacked, too dry. Streams run clear and cold, feeding into small lakes ringed with reeds. Hills roll in gentle folds, their tops bare except for wind-bent grass. The coastline, though far from this inland village, is never entirely forgotten. The scent of the sea can sometimes reach this far on the wind, a faint reminder of the waters that shape Ireland's borders. By afternoon, the pace of the day has settled into its middle. The sun, when it breaks through the clouds, warms the lane and brightens the colors of the fields. The shadows of passing Clouds drift lazily over the hills, chasing each other like silent waves. A shepherd moves slowly along the slope, his dog trotting at his side. Somewhere nearby, the rhythmic strike of a hammer on metal rings out the blacksmith at work. You find yourself pausing often here, not because you are tired, but because the world seems to invite it. The air encourages deep breaths. The silence between sounds feels as important as the sounds themselves. Even the smallest things, the curl of smoke from a chimney, the glint of sunlight on water, the clink of a pail against a well, carry a kind of weight. This is Ireland in the early/ind, in the early/Ireland, in the early Synod. Lives/lies. Even the smallest things, the Kelly the lies of the lies of Kelly, the elicit of /belef, my /equate. I conceive with /Kellite. Why yourself were gay to see. It is kite. By ys, I say kite. We submit it with my secret. Be society a sit egg a lie. Go you sick a dire. It's sick a crick, but I sit la. It's kisic edit to guy. Psychit booze it at the get it. It's the elastic. God, quick, the disability, put the biggest it's but it's 1840s, a place of quiet endurance, deep ties, and unhurried beauty. The people live close to the land, their days marked by the turning of seasons and the steady beat of community life. While the future will bring trials that test their strength in this moment. If you were to step quietly out of the village and follow the winding lane westward, you would find yourself gradually leaving behind the sound of voices and the gentle clatter of daily life. The cottages grow fewer here, their chimneys sending thin, lazy spirals of smoke into the air. The road narrows into a simple track, lined with hedgerows, so thick they almost seem to guard the fields on either side. The air changes as you move farther from the center. The scent of baking bread and peat smoke fades, replaced by the clean, earthy smell of grass and damp soil. Your footsteps are softened by the packed dirt beneath them, and occasionally, the faint rustle of something moving within the hedges catches your ear. Perhaps a small bird darting deeper into cover, or a hare pausing to watch you pass before bounding away. Out here, the land stretches more openly. Gentle slopes roll away toward the horizon, broken here and there by clusters of hawthorn trees, their branches twisted and shaped by the wind. In spring and early summer, they are dusted with white blossoms, and in the later months, they bear small red berries that shine like drops of color. Against the muted greens and browns of the countryside, the fields beyond the village are not all alike. Some are carefully tended, marked out by stone walls or simple wooden fences. Others are wild and uncultivated, home to long grasses that sway in the wind and a scattering of wildflowers, buttercups, daisies, and the purple heads of thistle. These meadows hum quietly with life, the buzzing of bees and the soft whir of insects' wings blending into the background music of the day. Here and there, you might pass a farmstead set back from the road, its barn doors open to reveal the scent of hay and the darker shapes of cattle sheltering inside. A dog may wander to the edge of the yard, tail wagging slowly, eyes following you with mild curiosity. These places feel self-contained, as though each one is its own small world, connected to the village but content in its own rhythm. The streams that cross this part of the land run narrow but quick, their waters so clear you can see smooth stones at the bottom. At certain points, wooden planks or flat stones have been laid across to make a crossing. The sound of the water is constant but gentle, a silver thread of motion in the stillness of the surrounding fields. Children from the village sometimes come here to play, their laughter carrying over the grass on warm afternoons. In the distance, the land begins to lift more sharply, giving way to hills that rise in soft, rounded forms. The higher you climb, the more the view unfolds. You can see the patchwork of fields below, the dark green of woodlands, and, on a clear day, perhaps even the faint shimmer of water far off. The hills themselves are mostly bare, clothed only in grass and the occasional outcrop of rock, their slopes grazed by sheep that move slowly, heads bent to the ground. These uplands carry a different kind of quiet. The wind moves more freely, here carrying with it scents from far away, the sharp freshness of rain on stone, the faint tang of salt from the unseen sea. Sometimes it whistles softly through gaps in the rocks, creating a sound that is almost like a low flute note, rising and falling with the breeze. From these heights, you may notice the outlines of things long past, the ring of stones that once formed part of an ancient fort, or the faint raised lines in the grass that mark the remains of old boundary walls. They are the quiet signatures of those who lived and worked this land centuries before. Their stories half lost to time, but still present in the very shape of the earth. The journey outward from the village also brings you into contact with travelers. Some walk, leading donkeys or carrying bundles, their boots worn from miles on the road. Others pass by in small carts, wheels turning steadily over the dirt, drawn by a patient horse. These roads connect not just nearby hamlets, but also the larger market towns, where goods and news travel together. For many, the arrival of a trader or messenger is a welcome break in the routine, a small opening to the wider world beyond these hills. As the afternoon wears on, the light shifts. Shadows stretch longer, and the sun's warmth begins to soften into something gentler, more golden. Birds that have been quiet during the heat of midday become active again, calling to each other from hedgerow to hedgerow. Somewhere nearby, the soft tapping of a woodpecker echoes faintly through a stand of trees. Beyond the rolling hills lies the edge of the bogland, a vast, dark stretch where the ground is spongy underfoot and pools of still water reflect the sky here. Men cut peat in neat blocks, stacking them to dry in the sun. The smell of it, rich, earthy, faintly smoky, will linger in the air long after the cutting season ends. For many households, this peat is the main fuel for winter fires, and the work of gathering it is shared among neighbors. Further still, the land tilts downward toward the coast. Though you cannot yet see the sea, you can hear its distant voice. On the wind, a muted, endless hush, like the slow breathing of the earth. The air carries a sharper edge here, the faint brine mixing with the smell of grass and stone. When the coastline finally comes into view, it feels like a revelation. The water stretches out to the horizon, shifting in color from slate gray to deep blue depending on how the light falls. Waves break in a steady rhythm against the shore, white foam curling over rocks and retreating again. Seabirds wheel overhead, their cries cutting through the air, carried inland for miles. Small fishing villages, this edge of the world. Their boats drawn up on the pebbled beaches, nets drying in the sun. Life here is tied as much to the tide as the inland farms are to the seasons. In the mornings, the smell of fish mingles with the salt air. In the evenings, smoke rises from chimneys, just as it does in the village far behind you. Though this coastal world feels different from the quiet inland lanes, 'tis part of the same whole. The inland fields grow food that travels here. Coastal boats bring back fish that finds its way to distant tables. Trade moves slowly but steadily, carried by the same people who walk the roads and tend the land. Their lives threaded together in ways that may not always be seen, but are always felt. By the time you turn back toward the village, the day is deepening into early evening. The sun lowers toward the horizon, and the air begins to cool. Long rays of light spill across the fields, catching on the tops of grasses and turning them briefly to gold. The distant shapes of the cottages come back into view, their roofs dark against the fading sky. The village greets you not with noise, but with the familiar quiet that settles as the day ends. A few last voices drift on the air, someone calling to a neighbor, a child laughing before being called inside. The smell of cooking begins to rise again from the chimneys, richer now, with the promise of the main meal of the day in the fading light. The place seems to draw itself in, ready to rest and begin again tomorrow. The wider world beyond the village. Maybe vast and varied hills, bogs, coasts, and roads that stretch to distant towns, but it all returns, in the end, to this center. A place where life moves at the pace of the seasons, where history rests quietly in the stones, and where each day closes in the same gentle way it began. E-Village and its fields hold a stillness that feels timeless. The first thing you notice is the smell, not unpleasant, but layered, rich with stories. Salt from the sea mingles with the faint resin scent of freshly tarred ropes, the must of damp wood, and the subtle tang of spices carried on the wind from far-off markets. The air is cool here, brushing gently against your skin, but it carries a weight of warmth from the stone walls that have absorbed the sun all day. The harbor is not loud at this hour. You have arrived in the moments between bustle and stillness, when the sun has dipped low enough to cast the water in sheets of gold, and the tide rolls in with a rhythm as steady as breath. Ships sway gently, their hulls creaking in conversation with the piers. A gull's cry rings out, sharp but fleeting, quickly swallowed by the quiet hum of the city preparing for night. You take a few steps forward, your shoes meeting the smooth-worn boards of the dock. The wood is warm underfoot, still holding the day's heat. Beyond, the masts rise like a small forest, each one crowned with its own arrangement of ropes and rigging, gently shivering in the breeze. Some of these vessels are simple fishing boats, their nets neatly folded, their catches all ready, sold at market. Others are traders from distant lands, their sails dyed in colors you do not often see here: deep indigo, rusty ochre, pale cream with narrow crimson stripes. You imagine the journeys they have made, the storms weathered, the nights spent. Under skies far different from the one above you now, a man walks past you, rolling a small barrel toward a warehouse. He nods in greeting, and you catch a whiff of something sweet, figs, perhaps, or honeyed wine. You pause by the open doors of the storehouse, peering inside to see rows of amphorae stacked carefully, their clay sides marked with painted symbols, indicating origin, weight, and the name of the merchant who owns them. Not far from here, a young man walks at an unhurried pace along the edge of the harbor. His name is Alaric, and in his arms he carries a leather case containing tightly rolled scrolls. He has spent the afternoon at the governor's hall, copying official decrees into the city records. Now, with his work complete, he takes the long route home. Preferring the harbor's changing light to the busy streets inland, Alaric's sandals slap lightly against the stone path. His eyes are keen, but not hurried. He has a habit of noticing small details others miss, the way a boat's reflection shivers when a fish disturbs the surface, or how the breeze shifts just before the scent of rain arrives. Tonight, he catches the faintest hint of something metallic in the air, perhaps from the smith's workshop just around the curve of the quay, where a final strike of hammer on anvil rings out before the day's labor ends. As he walks, Alaric passes an older sailor seated on a crate, mending a section of net with patient fingers. The man hums to himself a slow, lilting tune, and when Alaric greets him, he looks up with a smile that reveals a row of missing teeth. "Evening to you, boy," the sailor says, his voice textured with years at sea. Alaric nods, knowing from experience that the man's stories could fill the whole night if he chose to share them. Following Alaric's path, you turn inland, where the sound of the water softens and is replaced by the gentler murmur of voices. The market square lies just beyond a tall archway, its carved stones depicting scenes of harvest, trade, and victory. Passing under it feels like crossing into a different rhythm entirely, though the main rush of business has passed. The market is far from empty. Merchants are packing away their goods, but some still linger, hoping for last-minute sales. The air here is a tapestry of scents, warm bread cooling on a stall's wooden board, a faint hint of incense from a spice seller's tent, the sweetness of ripe pomegranates split open to reveal jewel-like seeds. You pass a pottery vendor wrapping a jug in soft cloth for a customer, their hands moving with a grace that suggests years of practice. Nearby, a boy no older than 12 is polishing brass oil lamps until they catch the last of the day's light. Alaric pauses at the stall of an old acquaintance, a bookseller whose wares are not scrolls of state like those he copies, but collections of poems, philosophical musings, and tales from foreign lands. They exchange a few quiet words, and Alaric runs his fingers over the smooth papyrus of a freshly bound scroll. He does not buy tonight, but he makes a mental note to return when the governor's next payment arrives. As the market winds down, the city begins to shift into its evening rituals. From the open doorways of homes and taverns comes the sound of low conversation, the clink of ceramic cups, and the faint strains of music played on lyres and flutes. The air grows cooler, and lamps are lit, some simple clay bowls with floating wicks, others tall bronze stands casting patterned shadows on the walls. The streets take on a warm glow, and the pace of movement slows even further. You follow Alaric through a narrow street where the walls rise high on either side, their plaster surfaces catching the golden light. Overhead, balconies jut out, some draped with vines, others with woven cloths to dry in the evening air. A woman leans on one of these railings, calling softly to a neighbor across the way. At the far end of the street lies a small temple, its doors open to welcome anyone who wishes to give thanks for the day. Inside, the cool air is scented with oil and flowers laid in offering. A single priest moves quietly among the altars, trimming wicks and ensuring the flames burn steadily through the night. Eventually, you find yourself back at the water's edge. The sky has shifted to deep blue, and the first stars are appearing, their reflections trembling on the surface of the harbor. Alaric stops here, resting for a while on a bench beside the pier. He sets down his scroll case and watches as a small fishing boat glides in, its lantern bobbing gently. The soft murmur of the crew carries across the water. There is something timeless about this place at night. The same tides that move these ships have moved others for centuries. The same moon that lights the masts tonight shone on vessels long since lost to the sea. The city's stones hold these memories quietly, as if guarding ancient secrets you may never fully hear, but can still feel. The sound of the water fades as you follow a gently curving street that leads away from the piers. The stones under your feet are cool now, holding only a trace of the day's warmth. Above, the sky has deepened into a velvety indigo, with faint streaks of rose still lingering on the horizon, the last whisper of sunset. Shadows stretch long along the walls. Yet the city does not feel dark. Here and there, light spills from doorways, catching in the narrow gutters where trickles of water still run from earlier washing. The scent of the harbor salt, fish, tar slowly gives way to the green, damp fragrance of plant life. You pass under an archway made not of stone, but of intertwined branches, heavy with blossoms the color of pale moonlight. Their scent is delicate, almost shy, but noticeable enough to draw you onward. On the other side, the world opens into a quiet courtyard. This courtyard belongs to the city itself, open to all who wish to pause. By day, it is a place of children's laughter and elderly conversation. By night, it becomes a sanctuary. The garden beds are edged with low stone, each filled with herbs and flowers whose shapes you can just make out in the lamp glow. Rounded basil leaves, tall stems of lavender, the feathery tops of fennel plants dot in the center. A fountain sends a thin, steady stream of water into a shallow basin. The sound is gentle, like the murmur of someone speaking in another room. You can hear it more clearly now that the noises of the market and harbor have faded. A woman in a simple linen robe kneels near the fountain, placing small offerings. sprigs of rosemary, a cluster of dried petals, a pinch of grain into the water. She does not look up as you pass. Her movements are quiet, practiced, almost meditative. Alaric knows this garden well. He often stops here after long days. Finding the scent of the herbs helps clear the lingering ink fume from his mind. Tonight, he sits on one of the benches, beneath a fig tree, loosening the strap of his scroll case and placing it at his feet. The bench is cool stone, smoothed by years of use. Overhead, the fig leaves rustle gently, and somewhere in the branches, a night bird gives a low, soft call. He does not speak to the woman at the fountain. They have never exchanged words, but he feels her presence as a part of the evening's rhythm, just as he feels the water, the leaves, the air. When you leave the courtyard, you take the path that slopes upward toward the Scholars' Quarter. The streets here are narrower, the walls higher, with ivy and vines trailing down in long green ribbons. The lamps are fewer, but the moon is brighter here, silvering the plaster walls. You pass a series of tall wooden doors, each carved with geometric designs. Behind them lie private courtyards and gardens belonging to the wealthier residents of the city. Occasionally you catch a glimpse through a half-open gate, a tiled floor, a potted citrus tree heavy with fruit, a pool of still water reflecting the moon. The soundscape has changed again. It is quieter now, though in the distance you hear faint strains of music. A plucked lyre, a soft drumbeat. Somewhere, a group is gathered for an evening recitation of poetry or history, their voices blending in a way that feels both lively and serene. Alaric is headed to the home of his mentor, a senior scribe and teacher who has invited him for an evening of discussion. The man's house stands at the far end of the Scholars' Quarter, marked by a small oil lamp hung above the entrance. Before reaching it, Alaric slows his steps, enjoying the cool breeze that drifts down from the higher terraces of the city. He passes a wall where vines have been trained into deliberate patterns, forming shapes like waves and spirals. He remembers how his mentor once told him that such patterns were not only decoration, but carried symbolic meanings, reminders of the cycles of nature, the turning of the seasons, the flow of time. You step with him into the courtyard, where the air smells faintly of ink and cedar wood. A small pool sits at the center, its surface broken only by the occasional ripple of a goldfish. Around the pool, narrow beds of mint and chamomile grow, their scents releasing more fully in the cool of night. Your host greets you warmly, his white hair catching the lamplight. He wears a robe of deep blue, tied loosely at the waist, and gestures for you to sit on a cushioned bench beneath a pergola draped in climbing roses. A servant brings a tray with cups of warm spiced milk, cinnamon, honey, a hint of cardamom, and sets it between you. The steam curls upward, carrying a comfort that seems to seep into your very breath. The talk begins with the day's work, the decrees copied, the phrasing of certain passages, the elegance of a particular signature. But it soon drifts to broader topics, the history of the city's founding, the changes in trade over the decades, the way certain constellations mark the passing of the year. You do not need to understand every detail. The cadence of the voices is enough. They speak with an unhurried rhythm, pausing often, letting silence sit comfortably between sentences. The mentor leans back, gazing toward the moonlit pool. It is said, he murmurs, that our harbor lies where an older city once stood, a place lost to time, though some claim its stones still lie beneath the waves. His tone is not one of urgency, but of wonder, as if the thought alone is enough to enrich the evening. When at last you rise to leave, the streets are almost empty. The lamps burn lower now, and the moon has climbed high, washing the Scholars' Quarter in pale silver. Alaric walks beside you for a while, then turns down a different street toward his own home. You continue alone, your steps slow, the city's layers of scent, sound, and light still settling into your mind. The night here feels both vast and close, as though the city holds you gently within its walls, even as it whispers of worlds far beyond them. You step through the narrow gate and back into the street, carrying with you the lingering scents of chamomile, ink, and warm spice. The air outside is cooler now, the kind of cool that brushes against the skin without chill, like silk drawn slowly across your hand. The scholars' quarter is hushed, but not silent. Somewhere behind a shuttered window, a lute is plucked in slow, thoughtful notes. In another direction, faint laughter drifts from a rooftop gathering, carried on the breeze as though the night itself is passing it gently along. Your footsteps make a soft tapping against the smooth stone paving. Each step seems to echo faintly, not sharply, but in a way that makes you aware of the space around you, the tall walls, the open patches of sky, the quiet watch of the moon. Your way leads upward again, toward a broad terrace that overlooks the harbor you visited earlier. But here, the sound of the water is distant, muted by the many layers of streets and gardens between. What you hear instead are the sounds of the city at night, the faint splash of water from unseen fountains, the rustle of leaves overhead, the occasional creak of wooden shutters shifting in the breeze. The scent has changed as well. In the harbor, the air was salted and tarred. In the market, spiced and smoky. In the scholars' quarter, fragrant with herbs and parchment. Here on the climb to the terrace, the scent is one of night-blooming flowers, heavy, sweet, but softened. By the cool air, Alaric takes a slightly different way, knowing the side streets that wind between the upper homes. He greets a lamplighter who is lowering the wick in a bronze lantern, preparing it to burn slow until dawn. The two exchange a few quiet words. The lamplighter asks after Alaric's work, and Alaric asks if the night has been peaceful. Peaceful. The lamplighter nods, though he gestures toward the east, where the watchmen have been making longer rounds. It is not danger exactly, but the city is old, and its walls have seen many things. Watchfulness is its own kind of tradition. You arrive at the terrace and find it nearly empty. The space is open, lined with stone balustrades, and beyond them, the view sweeps across the rooftops and streets, all silvered in moonlight. Far away, the harbor glimmers, a faint scattering of lights on the water. The market square is darker now, though a few stalls still glint with the last of their oil lamps. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings once, low and sonorous, marking the hour. On the terrace itself, the paving stones are broad and cool underfoot. They are worn, their edges smoothed by generations of visitors who have come here for the view, the breeze, and perhaps the quiet understanding that the city belongs not just to its living inhabitants, but also to all who have ever walked here. At the far end of the terrace, there is a small, open shrine. It is little more than a roof of carved wood supported by 4 stone columns, but beneath it, a basin of water reflects the moon with perfect clarity. A handful of candles burn around its edge, their flames barely flickering in the still air. An older man in a long robe stands near the basin. He holds a thin reed dipped in some faintly shimmering liquid and lets a single drop fall into the water. Then he murmurs a few words too low to hear, before stepping back and bowing his head. You stand a little distance away, sensing that this is not a place for hurried movement or loud voices. The air feels different here, not tense, but concentrated, as though all sound is hushed in respect. Alaric knows this shrine. He has come here on evenings when his mind feels heavy, when the words he writes seem to resist his pen. Tonight, he pauses at the entrance, bowing his head before stepping into the small pool of candlelight. He does not perform the ritual as the man did, but he stands beside the basin, letting his eyes rest on the perfect reflection of the moon. There is something steadying in that sight, a reminder that above the shifting clouds, the moon is always whole. As you leave the terrace, you pass to members of the city watch. They wear light armor that gleams dully in the lamplight and carry short spears, more as symbols of readiness than of threat. Their pace is unhurried, their eyes calm but observant. One nods as you pass, and you return the gesture. Their presence is reassuring, a quiet thread in the fabric of the night, a sign that even in stillness the city is cared for. From the terrace, a wide flight of steps leads down toward the lower quarter. The stone is cool beneath your hand as you trail your fingers along the railing. The steps are uneven in height, worn into gentle dips by countless feet, and at their edges small plants grow in the cracks, their leaves silvered by moonlight as you descend. The air warms slightly, carrying the faint scent of baking bread from a night baker's oven. Somewhere nearby, a small group laughs softly. Their voices are light, like the clinking of glass beads. At the foot of the steps, Alaric pauses by a fountain carved in the shape of a lion's head. Water flows steadily from its mouth into a shallow pool. The rippling sound mingles with the faint hum of the lower quarter, where more people are still awake. He cups his hands, drinks, and lets the coolness settle in him before moving on. His scroll case feels lighter now, though he has not opened it, perhaps because the night itself has done some of the work of easing the day's weight. Here, the buildings are closer together, and lanterns hang from strings stretched across the narrow lanes. The light they cast is soft and amber, painting the walls in warm tones that contrast with the silvery light of the moon above. Shadows sway gently as the lanterns shift in the breeze. The sound of quiet conversation drifts from doorways, and the smell of roasted nuts and sweet pastry lingers in the air. You catch sight of a small cat slipping through the crowd, its tail flicking as it vanishes into a side street. Eventually, the path begins to circle back toward the direction you came from. The city at night feels different now, not because it has changed, but because you have moved through so many of its moods. The salt and bustle of the harbor, the hum of the market, the herb-scented calm of the scholars' quarter, the wide breadth of the terrace, and the golden glow of the lower lanes. Alaric walks beside you again now, having rejoined from his own route. He says little, but his steps match yours, steady and easy. The city seems to guide you both, its stones remembering every journey taken across them, holding the weight of all footsteps without judgment. And as the night deepens, you feel the edges of wakefulness grow softer, as though the city itself is leading you toward rest. The lantern-strung lanes of the lower quarter gradually give way to wider, quieter streets. The gentle murmur of voices and the scent of roasted sweets begin to fade behind you. The air here feels more open, and the breeze carries a faint trace of the river that winds behind the city's walls. You walk slowly, the sound of your steps softened by the worn paving stones. The houses are larger in this part of the city, with wooden gates and small courtyards hidden behind high walls. Occasionally, a flicker of light escapes from a half-closed shutter, the glow of a candle being carried from one room to another. The streets are not empty. Here and there, a figure passes, a servant in a plain tunic, returning from a late errand. A guard walking at an unhurried pace, his spear balanced loosely in his hand. A young woman carrying a basket of herbs that release a gentle, earthy scent into the night. Alaric knows the way toward the palace outskirts, but he takes a route that skirts the main gates, choosing instead a series of side streets where the walls grow higher and the air smells faintly of jasmine. He greets a night gardener trimming a hedge beneath the soft glow of an oil lamp. The gardener nods, then returns to his work with slow, careful snips, the kind of measured rhythm that belongs entirely to the night. You soon reach a stretch of the palace walls. They rise tall and pale in the moonlight, their smooth surface broken only by narrow windows and carved stone reliefs near the base. The carvings are worn, their shapes softened over centuries, yet you can still trace the outlines of flowers, birds, and curling vines, a stone garden that has endured long after real petals have withered away. At intervals along the wall, there are small arched gates, each guarded by a watchman. The guards here do not look tense or hurried. They seem as much a part of the scenery as the walls themselves, leaning on spears and exchanging quiet words as they watch the streets. Near one of these gates, you find a garden open to the public. Its entrance is marked by 2 tall lanterns. Their light filtered through carved wooden screens so that it falls in delicate patterns on the ground. Inside, the garden is a place of stillness. Narrow stone paths wind between beds of fragrant herbs and clusters of moon-pale blossoms. Low fountains murmur softly, and the air smells of mint, honeysuckle, and something faintly citrus. You pause near one of the fountains. Its basin is lined with smooth black stones, and in the water the reflection of the moon trembles gently with each ripple. The sound of the water is steady and soothing, like an old story told in the same words each time. Alaric steps into the garden as well, though he follows a different path. He stops to read a small plaque carved into a flat stone, a poem dedicated to the city's founding. The words are old, their phrasing formal, but the sentiment is simple. Gratitude for safety, for beauty, and for the quiet passage of the seasons. He traces the final line with his fingertips before moving on, the sound of his sandals brushing softly over the path. Beyond the garden, the path runs parallel to the river that flows behind the palace. The water is dark, but it catches the moonlight in broken silver streaks. Wooden mooring posts rise from the bank, though no boats are tied here tonight. Instead, the river drifts by in silence, carrying the faint scent of silt and cool stone. Your footsteps slow without you meaning them to. The rhythm of the water seems to match your own breathing. And the night feels very still, the kind of stillness that seems to stretch time. Ahead, a low bridge crosses the river, leading to a temple complex near the palace grounds. The temple's outer gate is not tall, but it is wide, with heavy wooden doors bound in bronze. Tonight, the doors are open, and 2 small lanterns burn in niches on either side. Their flames steady in the still air. You step through the gate and find yourself in a courtyard paved with pale stone. In the center stands a large incense burner, its surface carved with coiling dragons and lotus flowers. A thin thread of smoke rises from it, carrying a scent of sandalwood and something faintly sweet, perhaps cinnamon. The temple itself is not large, but it is deep, its hall stretching far back into the darkness. You remove your shoes at the threshold, leaving them beside the others already lined neatly there. The floor beneath your feet is cool and smooth. The air inside is warm with candlelight. Rows of lamps burn along the walls, their flames reflecting off gilded panels. At the far end of the hall sits a tall, serene statue, its eyes lowered, its hands resting in a gesture of calm. The sound of your breathing seems louder here, but not intrusive, as though the hall itself accepts all sounds, folding them gently into its quiet. Alaric steps forward to the offering table before the statue. From his satchel, he takes a small folded slip of paper, its surface filled with careful handwriting. He places it in a shallow bowl before the statue, then bows once, his eyes closing. The slip is a prayer not for himself, but for the city. He writes one each month, a habit he began years ago. The words are always different, but the intent is the same, that the city's walls remain strong, its people gentle, and its nights peaceful. To the right of the main hall, a narrow corridor leads to a side garden. The walls here are painted with faded murals of clouds and cranes, their colors softened by time. A small window lets in the cool night air, and you can hear the faint splash of water from a hidden fountain. When you reach the side garden, you find it quiet and nearly dark, lit only by a single lantern placed beside a small stone bridge. The bridge arches over a pond so still that it mirrors the sky perfectly, the stars scattered above, and their reflections scattered below. You sit on the edge of the bridge, the smooth stone warm from the day's sun. The lantern's glow catches in the water, making the surface shimmer faintly. Somewhere in the reeds, a frog makes a single low croak, then falls silent again. The air here feels softer than anywhere else in the city, almost like a held breath. You find yourself breathing more slowly, your shoulders easing the pace of the night settling into your bones. Alaric joins you, though he sits a short distance away, his gaze fixed on the pond. He does not speak, and there is no need for him to. The night itself is speaking in its quiet way, in the sound of the water, the faint rustle of leaves, and the deep, easy rhythm of stillness. After a while, he rises, nodding once toward you. In a gesture of shared understanding, it is time to move on, but without haste. The night has not finished telling its story yet. You rise from the stone bridge, your steps soundless on the soft moss path. The night air greets you again, a little cooler now. As though the city itself is beginning to drift toward sleep, the temple's side gate opens onto a narrow lane, shaded by tall trees whose leaves catch glimmers of moonlight. Their branches arch above like a darkened corridor, and between the trunks you can see glimpses of the palace walls. Pale and smooth in the distance, a lantern hangs from a wooden post ahead, its frame carved with the shapes of curling waves. The light it casts is golden but faint, as if it's reluctant to disturb the shadows. Alaric walks ahead now, his scrolls held close. His pace is neither hurried nor slow, just steady, as though he knows precisely where each footfall should land. He takes a turn that leads toward the palace's service entrance, where the night guards nod at him without question. He has walked this way many times before, but each night feels slightly different. A different scent in the air, a different shape to the shadows. Tonight, the air carries a faint trace of night-blooming flowers from deep within the palace gardens. The gate itself is modest, set into the wall without ornament. A single oil lamp burns beside it, and the iron hinges are dark with age. As you step inside, the sounds of the city, faint though they already were, fall away almost entirely. Here, the paths are narrower, lined with carefully clipped hedges and low stone lanterns that glow softly under the moon. A few servants cross the path ahead, carrying baskets covered in cloth, their voices barely above whispers. The gardens open wide before you. Stone paths wind between groves of bamboo and stretches of raked gravel where the moonlight pools in silver shapes. Small bridges cross over streams that trickle quietly, their waters so clear you can see each pebble on the bottom dot. Clusters of white and pale yellow flowers release their scent into the air, mingling with the smell of cool water and damp earth. Somewhere, a nightingale sings a slow, lilting note that seems to hang in the air long after the bird has gone silent again. You pass a stone lantern covered in a fine lace of moss. The light within it is so dim it's almost more suggestion than flame, yet it seems to warm the surrounding air. Alaric pauses at a small wooden pavilion set slightly above the gardens. Its railings are painted deep red, the paint worn smooth by years of hands resting there. He steps inside and looks out over the moonlit water garden below. The surface of the pond is still, broken only by the faint ripples of koi moving beneath. Their scales catch bits of moonlight, flashing briefly before disappearing into shadow again. From here, the palace's rooftops are visible beyond the treetops, curved lines rising like waves, their edges catching silver light. You join him at the railing. The wood feels warm under your fingertips, holding the memory of the day's sun in the distance. You hear the faint chime of a bell, not loud, not hurried, just a single, rounded tone that drifts across the night. It might mark the hour, or it might be part of a prayer here. Time is measured as much by sound as by the moon's slow movement across the sky. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the quiet seep deeper into you. The garden's sounds are steady and unchanging. The trickle of water, the whisper of leaves, the almost inaudible hum of night insects. When you continue, the path narrows again, flanked by tall hedges. At intervals, wooden gates open onto smaller courtyards, some with nothing more than a stone basin of water. others with miniature gardens shaped like tiny landscapes. The air grows warmer as you near the inner quarters, carrying the scent of burning incense. The light changes too. Fewer open lanterns, more shadows. More soft glows filtering through carved screens. Alaric moves here without hesitation, his steps automatically avoiding the stones he knows will shift underfoot. He passes under a low archway into a sheltered corridor. The roof here is painted with a faded pattern of stars, the colors muted but still discernible in the dim light. He remembers faintly the first time he walked here as a young scribe, how the silence seemed almost heavy then. Now, it feels like a blanket wrapping the palace in stillness. The corridor opens unexpectedly onto a wide stone terrace. It sits higher than the surrounding gardens, giving an unobstructed view of the night sky. You step closer to the railing, and the moon feels nearer here, its light bright enough to silver the tips of the distant hills. The stars are fewer but sharper, each one steady in its place. On the terrace floor, pattern has been inlaid with pale stone, a circle surrounded by 12 smaller shapes. Alaric explains softly that it's a calendar of sorts, marking the cycles of the moon. Each shape is worn smooth by centuries of feet crossing it. Yet, the pattern remains unbroken. You and Alaric stand in the quiet, the cool air brushing your face. From somewhere far below, the soft rush of the river reaches your ears. But here, it feels like the sound comes from a great distance, almost from another world. The stillness is deep enough that you can hear your own heartbeat, slow and steady. You let your breath match its rhythm, feeling the night settle into you like a slow tide. Eventually, the path curves toward the palace's sleeping heart. The buildings here are more ornate, carved eaves, painted beams, sliding screens painted with scenes of cranes and clouds. The lanterns burn lower here, their flames protected by frosted glass. The corridors are lined with tatami mats that soften each footstep. You pass closed doors behind which soft light glows, the silhouettes of attendants moving quietly inside. Alaric turns toward a small side chamber near the royal quarters. Inside, a single desk waits with ink, brushes, and fresh parchment. He sets down his scrolls, his hands moving without hurry as he unrolls one to make a final note. It's not work that must be done tonight, but he prefers to finish while the night is still deep, when thoughts are unbroken and the palace is quiet. His brush moves in slow arcs, the ink dark and smooth against the pale page. You sit near the open screen that overlooks a small inner garden. The garden is no more than a few stones, a shallow pool, and a single pine tree whose needles whisper faintly in the breeze. Somewhere beyond, the nightingale sings again, not loud, but clear, the sound threading through the stillness like a silver thread. The air here feels perfectly balanced, warm enough to be comfortable, cool enough to invite stillness. You feel your eyes grow heavier, the weight of the night settling on your shoulders in the gentlest way. For a long moment, everything seems to pause. The koi beneath the pond's surface, the leaves overhead, even the movement of the air. It's as if the night itself has chosen to hold a breath just for you. In this pause, there is nothing to do, nothing to decide, nothing to remember. Only the soft sound of the brush moving across parchment, the faint scent of pine, and the moon's silver light resting on the stones. The small inner garden outside your resting place holds its stillness for what feels like an unmeasured span of time. The pine tree's needles hardly shift, and the shallow pool remains as still as polished glass, reflecting a perfect silver coin of a moon. The faint scent of damp stone and flowering jasmine lingers in the air, mingling with the quiet freshness that comes when night has fully claimed the palace grounds. When you rise, it is not out of restlessness, but from a subtle sense that the night still has more to show you before it retreats into memory. Alaric, who has been standing a few paces away, watching the moonlit pond with the same calm detachment as one might watch a candle burn, turns his head slightly. His gesture is barely noticeable, a slow tilt toward the narrow passage beyond. The garden's bamboo fence, but it is enough to signal that he, too, feels the night's invitation. You follow him through the half-shadowed opening, your steps muffled by the soft weave of your slippers against worn wooden boards. A hush hangs in the air here, deeper than in the open courtyard, as though this passage holds its breath in deference to what lies ahead. The corridor opens gradually, revealing its length one pool of lamplight at a time. Along its inner wall stand painted folding screens by Obu, each one taller than a man. Their panels framed in dark, lacquered wood, polished to a soft sheen. The lamplight catches the mineral pigments in the paintings, making them shimmer faintly, as though the artists had somehow mixed moonlight itself into the colors. The first screen depicts a gathering of court ladies under blooming cherry trees, their robes billowing like clouds in a spring wind. Each figure is painted with precision, a subtle incline of the head, a hand poised mid-gesture, as if the moment might resume movement at any second. Beyond them, the petals fall in silent drift, forever caught between branch and earth. You pause, letting your gaze sink into the scene. The details are so fine you can almost feel the texture of the silk sleeves. Hear the faint rustle as the painted women lean toward one another in whispered conversation. Alaric walks slowly beside you, his hands folded loosely in front of him, eyes moving from one panel to the next. He stops at a second screen, this one showing a banquet in the reign of an emperor whose name you've only heard murmured in court tales. A table stretches the length of the painting, laden with lacquered dishes, each holding food rendered with exquisite care, steaming rice piled high, grilled river fish glazed until their skin gleams, bowls of melon slices arranged like delicate fan blades. The guests wear robes heavy with embroidered clouds and cranes, symbols of longevity. This, Alaric murmurs, is from the year of the water horse. It was painted to commemorate the arrival of envoys from across the sea. The record says they brought gifts, coral silk dyed in colors our artisans had never seen, and a kind of tea leaf that smelled of smoke. His voice is low, carrying just enough for you to hear over the silence of the corridor. You nod, taking in the richness of the feast, but your eyes are already drawn to the next screen. Here, the colors are softer, the subject quieter. A river. In spring, crowded with festival boats. Lanterns dangle from the prows, their light reflecting in the water in rippling streaks of red and gold. Painted figures lean over the edges of the boats, trailing hands in the current. The distant shore glows with the light of hundreds more lanterns, turning the river into a path of stars. But it is the fourth screen that stops you completely. This one is faded in places, the pigments worn by centuries. It shows a lone woman, seated on a terrace at night. Her hair is arranged in the elaborate style once worn only by high-ranking consorts, and in her hands she holds a closed fan. She gazes not toward the palace, but outward into a painted night sky scattered with stars. The artist has captured something haunting in the angle of her head, the way her shoulders seem to slope toward solitude. Alaric's voice is almost a whisper. The records call her the Silent Pearl. She served a great emperor, but often refused the grand banquets, preferring to sit alone under the moon. She left behind no children, no poems, no letters. Only a few brief mentions in the court archives and this one likeness. The corridor seems even quieter after he speaks. The woman in the painting holds her silence still, her thoughts sealed away with the centuries. You imagine her hearing the same night sounds you hear now, the soft breath of wind against wooden eaves, the faint trickle of water in a nearby courtyard, and wonder what she might have thought of in those moonlit hours. You walk on. Tigers crouch in bamboo shadows on the next screen, their amber eyes fixed on something unseen. Another shows plum blossoms bowed under heavy snow, each petal outlined in a shimmer of white pigment. Then a scene of geese mid-flight, wings stretched. Wide, the tips blurred just enough to suggest motion. In palaces such as this, painted screens were far more than decoration. They divided rooms, blocked drafts, and, for the women of the court, offered a sense of privacy in public spaces. The artisans who made them trained for decades, grinding minerals into powder, malachite for green, azurite for blue, cinnabar for red, each stroke applied with brushes made from the hair of animals chosen for their softness. Gold leaf was beaten so thin it could float on a breath. These works were meant to last far beyond the lives of those who gazed upon them, and many have. The corridor bends, and the painted screens give way to wooden latticework. Beyond it lies another courtyard, open to the moon. A koi pond rests below, its surface rippling under the gentle fall of water from a bamboo spout. The pale fish move slowly beneath the surface, their shapes appearing and vanishing like fragments of drifting cloud. From somewhere nearby comes the faintest strain of music, a single string instrument. Its notes spaced so far apart they feel like drops of rain falling into still water. You and Alaric pause, listening. The sound is not for an audience, only for the player's own company, and it fades almost as soon as you catch it. The scent of sandalwood drifts from an unseen chamber, carried on a warm current of air. It mingles with the cooler breath of night from the open lattice. You stand there for a moment longer, letting the blend of scents and the faint residual music settle into your memory. When you move on, the corridor feels even softer underfoot, the boards polished smooth by centuries of corns. Passing steps. Each lamp you pass throws a slow, flickering shadow along the painted walls. And for a moment, it's as if the cranes, the boats, and the lone woman on the terrace are shifting slightly, live in their own painted world. You do not hurry. There is no need. The night seems endless here, not heavy, but suspended, as if time itself has paused, holding you in this quiet between painted worlds and the moonlit gardens that await beyond. The corridor's final lamp gives way to open air, and you step into a space where the night seems wider, more spacious, yet still, deeply still. Before you lies the outer moonlit garden, a place far from the center of courtly ceremony, where the palace walls yield to stretches of stone path and groves of shadowed trees. The air here feels cooler, drawn across the surface of distant water before arriving to brush against your face. You pause on the wooden threshold, letting your eyes adjust to the subtle difference between the lamplight behind and the pure silver glow ahead. The moon is high now, its reflection caught in a small ornamental lake at the center of the garden. The surface is broken only by the faint wake of a koi surfacing for a moment before vanishing again into the deep. Lanterns hang low in the boughs of plum and willow, their paper shades painted with faded calligraphy and stylized waves. They do not cast strong light, but rather a suggestion of it, enough to make the edges of the garden glimmer without breaking its dreamlike quality. Alaric steps beside you, his hands resting lightly behind his back. His gaze is not fixed on any single thing, but roams quietly over the scene, as though cataloging every branch, every shimmer of water, for some future remembrance. You begin to walk the narrow stone path. The stones are worn smooth by countless feet, and the edges of each are softened with moss. Your steps are slow, not because the path demands caution, but because the garden seems to invite it. Every turn opens a new pocket of stillness, a curved bridge arching over a stream so narrow you could cross in a single stride. A cluster of night-blooming flowers releasing a perfume sweeter and heavier than jasmine. A small shrine, it's weathered. Wood almost blending into the tree trunk it leans against. Somewhere to your left, a night heron calls, a low, croaking sound, solitary and deliberate. You glance in the direction of the sound, but see only the faint gleam of water through the trees. Gardens like this were not designed simply for beauty, but as living spaces of reflection. Every element, the curve of a bridge, the placement of a lantern, the sound of moving water, was chosen to evoke a shifting mood with the seasons. In summer, breezes over water cooled the air. In winter, bare branches framed the sky like ink brushstrokes. Even the shadows were part of the design, offering depth and a quiet kind of movement when wind passed through the leaves. Cross a small bridge and hear the faint hollow clink of its wooden planks shifting slightly underfoot. Beyond it, a larger pond comes into view, ringed with stepping stones that trail toward a small pavilion. The pavilion sits half over the water, its posts reflected in soft ripples. Its roof is tiled with dark curves, each catching a faint stripe of moonlight along its ridge. Inside, low benches line the sides, inviting rest. Alaric gestures for you to sit. When you do, the cool wood seeps its calm into your palms where they rest. Across the water, the pale arc of a stone lantern stands among reeds, its upper rim catching the moon like a tiny horizon dot from here. The garden's layered sounds are more distinct, the whisper of wind through willow leaves, the steady drop of water from a bamboo spout, the faint creak of branches as they sway. You notice how each sound has space around it, how none rush to fill the silence, but rather take turns emerging and fading. Like unhurried guests in conversation, Alaric reaches into his sleeve and draws out a small scroll, though he does not unroll it. Instead, he turns it slowly in his hands, as if the act itself is a form of thought. When the court hosted evening audiences, he says softly, "Envoys from distant lands were brought here first to walk these paths." It was meant to ease their minds before the formal discussions began. The garden spoke of balance, of restraint, of a land where even time could be persuaded to slow. You picture it, foreign dignitaries in embroidered cloaks or patterned tunics, their eyes tracing the same rippling water, their steps slowed by the same soft moss and winding paths. Perhaps they too felt, as you do now, that the garden existed in its own pocket of hours, where the usual measures of day and night held no urgency. Leaving the pavilion, you follow the stepping stones back to the main path. The trees thin, and the air grows subtly different, less scented with blossoms, more open, touched by the faint salt of a distant tide. Ahead, you see the dark line of the palace's outer wall, and, beyond it, the pale thread of a river. A small side gate stands open, its wooden frame painted in deep red lacquer. The paint is worn to bare wood in places, showing where countless hands have slid it aside over the years. You and Alaric step through, and suddenly the sound of the river expands around you. The bank is low and edged with smooth stones, their surfaces cool beneath the soles of your slippers. Moonlight lays a silver road across the slow-moving water. Somewhere upstream, you hear the muted splash of a fish breaking the surface. Then silence again. You walk along the bank, where the grass bends gently toward the water. On the opposite shore, low buildings huddle close to one another, their outlines softened by night. A few windows glow faintly, and the faint shadow of a boat slides past, the dip of its oar just audible in the quiet. Alaric speaks again, his tone reflective. This river carried more than fish and reeds. It carried news. Timber from the mountains, rice from the southern fields, and, at times, the quiet return of those whose names the court preferred not to speak again. His words are not heavy, but they carry the layered sense that every waterway holds more than its surface reveals. You slow your pace to match the rivers until walking feels almost like drifting. The air is cooler here, carrying the scent of wet stone and river grass. Now and then, a small insect hums past your ear, a brief reminder of the world's smaller, tireless rhythms. In many cultures, rivers by night were as much a part of diplomacy and ritual as the grandest halls. The gentle crossing by boat, the exchange of gifts under lantern light, even the shared silence as the water moved beneath. These were moments in which alliances were strengthened without a single formal word. Waterways were also the palaces. Quiet escape routes in troubled times, their unlit channels offering a discreet path to safety. A curve in the bank leads to a small wooden dock, just long enough for a single narrow boat to tie against. The boat that waits here is painted a deep, nearly black blue, its sides worn from years of gentle mooring. A rope ladder rests coiled on the dock, and a small paper lantern swings from the prow, glowing faintly like a captured moon. You step aboard. The planks creak under your weight, but hold steady. Alaric takes the pole and eases the boat away from the dock with a quiet push. The river accepts you without a sound, the water parting in slow ripples that trail out into the moonlight. The boat moves not with speed, but with intention, gliding along the silver path toward an unknown bend. You lean back against the low side, feeling the subtle shift and sway beneath you. The stars overhead seem brighter now, freed from the shadows of palace walls and trees. One in particular catches your eye, a pale, steady gleam that seems to rest directly above the curve of the river. No words are needed. The sound of the pole entering the water, the faint trickle as it is lifted again, the quiet pulse of night around you, these are enough. Time feels softened, dissolved into the rhythm of each unhurried glide forward. The boat glides on, its bow parting the water without urgency. You sit with your back to the low wooden rail, feeling the faint vibration of each movement ripple through. The planks beneath you, the lantern at the prow sways in a slow arc, spilling its warm glow across the water in a wavering reflection that shivers and reforms with each small current. The air has grown cooler now, but it carries no bite, only a soft reminder that the night is deepening. Above, the stars seem sharper than before, as if each one has been polished in the hours since you first stepped into the garden. The moon has shifted toward the west, lowering slightly, its silver spilling across the water like a path that bends. Out of sight, Alaric stands near the stern, one hand loosely on the pole. His movements are unhurried, deliberate, the kind of ease that comes from knowing the river's currents by heart. This bend, he says softly, is older than the palace, older than any map we still keep. The water has shaped it the same way for generations, cutting slowly through the silt and stone, never rushing, never faltering. His voice, low and measured, seems to merge with the sound of the pole dipping into the water. You turn your gaze toward the riverbank. The land rises slightly here, clothed in dark reeds that sway in the faintest breeze. Beyond them, low trees lean over the water, their leaves making faint whispers as they brush one another. Now and again, you see the flash of movement, perhaps a night bird lifting silently into the air, or a small creature scurrying through the undergrowth, startled by your passing. In many ancient courts, the river was more than a waterway. It was a witness. Songs were written for it, offerings left upon its banks. Certain bends, like this one, were believed to hold the memory of everything that had passed before them. To speak here at night was to send your words into the same current that had carried centuries of voices away into the distance. The bend widens, revealing a stretch of open water where the current slows. Here, the stars are reflected so perfectly that for a moment you feel suspended between two skies, one above, infinite and glittering, and one below, rippling and trembling with each stroke of the pole. You lean slightly over the side, letting your eyes lose focus until it becomes impossible to tell which stars are real and which are only water's dream. Alaric rests the pole against the side of the boat and lowers himself to sit opposite you. The boat drifts now, carried by the faint pull of the current. He tilts his head back, eyes on the sky. "That bright one there," he murmurs, pointing to a star that gleams with a steadier light than its companions, was once called the Emperor's Lantern. They say it appears brightest in years of good harvest and dims in troubled seasons. Of course, the star cares nothing for our grain or our politics, but the name remains, as names often do. You follow the line of his hand, tracing constellations. You do not know the names of. Some form shapes that seem obvious, a bow, a bird in flight, a winding river, while others are only scattered sparks. Refusing any pattern you might wish to place upon them, the boat turns slightly with the current, and your view shifts. You notice a faint mist beginning to gather over the water, catching the moonlight in soft, pale threads. It clings low, too, the surface curling and unraveling with each breath of wind. The air smells faintly of damp stone and distant rain, though no clouds trouble the sky above. Mist on the river was once read as an omen, though whether good or ill depended on the teller. In the imperial chronicles, it might be recorded as a blessing, a veil laid by the heavens to soften the world. In the soldiers' camp logs, it could be written as a warning, hiding the enemy's approach. But here, tonight, it is neither. It is simply a presence, a soft border between water and sky. The soundscape changes subtly. You begin to hear the gentle, rhythmic chirp of crickets from the bank, joined now and then by the low croak of a frog. Somewhere far upstream, a night bird gives a single call, echoed faintly by another farther still. The voices of the night move around you like a slow-turning wheel, each sound entering and leaving without haste. Alaric draws a small, lidded cup from his sleeve. He opens it, revealing a handful of dried leaves, their pale edges curling inward. He lowers the cup toward the water, rinsing it briefly before taking a measured sip. You can smell the faint, earthy sweetness of the infusion, even from where you sit. River tea, he says quietly, steeped only in the water drawn from this bend. It is said to calm the mind enough that one might fall asleep beneath the stars and dream without a single disturbance. He offers the cup, and you take it carefully, feeling the faint warmth of the liquid inside. The taste is delicate, almost more a sensation than a flavor. It leaves a coolness on your tongue and a lightness in your chest. For a moment, you imagine that your thoughts themselves have slowed to match the current, drifting without resistance toward some far horizon. The mist thickens slightly, and the lantern's glow becomes a hazy sphere around the boat. The stars above remain clear, each one sharp and steady, but their reflections below blur into a soft silver wash. You set the cup down between you and Seth, and neither of you speaks for a long while. The boat drifts past another curve, and the riverbank here is higher, clothed in tall grass that sways like a slow tide. At the top of the rise, you glimpse a small stone platform, perhaps a lookout, perhaps an old altar, its surface worn smooth by years of wind and rain. A single tree grows beside it, its branches reaching out toward the river as though, in greeting, Alaric notices your gaze. That is the moon's rest, he says. In the old days, the river guards would leave their posts for a moment to stand there and watch the water. Some believed that if you stood long enough, you could see the moon touch the surface, just for an instant. He smiles faintly. I have never seen it, but I still look each time I pass. Many ancient river stations had such small sanctuaries, places for solitude even in the midst of duty. A soldier might pause there between shifts, a trader might climb it before a journey downstream, a courtier might linger there after delivering a message. Over time, the purpose mattered less than the act itself, to stop, to look, to let the river carry away whatever thoughts were too heavy to keep. The current carries you onward, the mist thinning again until the stars return to the water's surface. The moon is lower now, its light gentler, almost golden at the edges. The lantern at the prow has burned lower too, its paper shade glowing with a softer hue. You feel a subtle change in the air, a quiet hint that the river is leading toward a wider place, where its voice might grow louder. But for now, it holds. It's calm, and you remain adrift in the space between water and sky, every sense attuned to the steady, unhurried rhythm of the night. The river widens as you drift farther downstream, the gentle current now carrying you toward a place that seems both timeless and sacred. Ahead, the faint outline of a temple rises against the dark horizon. Silhouette is softened by the night. Tall pillars stand like silent sentinels, their edges blurred beneath the heavy cloak of moonlight and mist. The temple's roof, curved and graceful, gleams faintly as if dusted with silver, and a soft glow flickers from within its shadowed recesses, promising warmth and quiet. As your boat approaches the shore, you hear the faint murmur of water lapping gently against smooth stone. The air here carries a different scent, a mingling of fragrant incense, damp earth, and ancient wood, all wrapped in the cool breath of night. Alaric leans forward, gripping the side of the boat with a steady hand. "This temple has watched over our city for centuries," he whispers. "Built by the first settlers, it has been a place of prayer, reflection, and refuge. Tonight, it stands quiet, resting beneath the same stars that have guided so many before us." You step out onto the stone quay, your feet meeting cool, worn steps leading up to the temple's entrance. The stones are smooth, shaped by countless feet over years beyond counting. A delicate breeze stirs the hanging lanterns that flank the temple doors, their soft flames casting dancing shadows along the carved reliefs, scenes of ancient festivals, sacred animals, and the river's journey itself. The craftsmanship speaks of reverence, every detail honed to honor the divine and the natural world. Inside, the temple is vast yet serene. Columns stretch upward, disappearing into shadows where the moonlight cannot reach. The air is thick with the scent of sandalwood and jasmine, mingling with the faint echo of whispered prayers. Candles flicker along the walls, their flames steady, offering a quiet glow that invites calm and contemplation. You find a seat upon a smooth stone bench, allowing the peace of the space to settle over you. Alaric sits beside you, his voice low and steady as he begins to share the stories carved into the temple walls. "Long ago, the founders believed the river was a living spirit," he says. "They built this temple as a way to honor it, to ask for safe passage and bountiful seasons. Every year, on the night of the full moon, they would gather here too, sing songs, to leave offerings, to renew their bond with the water that sustained them." His words are gentle ripples in the stillness, and you close your eyes briefly, imagining the soft voices of those ancient gatherings, the murmur of prayers mingling with the rustling leaves, the scent of flowers laid upon stone altars, the warmth of shared firelight beneath the vast sky. The present moment hums with the memory of past devotion. Temples like this were often the heart of ancient cities, places where the spiritual and daily lives intertwined. They served as more than houses of worship. They were centers of community, learning, and ceremony. Pilgrims traveled great distances to seek blessings or guidance, and the rhythms of the temple year marked the passage of time itself. Even now, when the temple rests under the cover of night, its stones remember the footsteps, the voices, and the dreams of countless souls. A gentle wind stirs through the open doorways, carrying with it the soft rustle of leaves from the nearby trees. Outside, the temple's garden waits in quiet shadow, a sanctuary of its own. You rise from the bench, drawn to step beneath the canopy of stars once more. The garden paths are lined with smooth stones and bordered by delicate blooms, night-blooming jasmine, moonflowers, and sweet-smelling honeysuckle, all nodding gently in the breeze. You walk slowly, feeling the cool earth beneath your feet and listening to the distant call of an owl. Each breath you take fills your lungs with the soft fragrance of the garden, calming your mind and easing your thoughts. The quiet is profound, yet it holds the richness of life, the slow stirring of creatures settling for the night, the pulse of the earth beneath the surface. Alaric follows his footsteps light on the path. This garden was once a place of meditation for the temple priests, he explained softly. They believed that by walking among the flowers and listening to the night, they could hear the voice of the river more clearly. The night teaches patience, and with patience, one learns to understand. You pause beside a small stone basin, its surface covered with floating petals. The water is still and clear, reflecting the moon and stars above like a mirror. For a moment, you simply watch, feeling the steady rhythm of the world in this quiet pool. In moments like these, the past feels close. Not distant history, but a living presence woven into the earth, the water, and the sky. The river's song continues, soft and unending, inviting you to listen and to rest. The sky overhead is a vast canvas of deep indigo, studded with countless stars that shimmer faintly against the velvet darkness. The moon has risen higher now, its light bathing the garden and temple in a serene glow. You tilt your head back, eyes tracing familiar constellations and letting your thoughts drift like the gentle clouds that occasionally pass before the stars. Alaric's voice breaks the silence once more, calm and sure. Look up and you see the same stars that guided travelers and sailors long ago. They have been here through all the stories, the joy, the sorrow. And they will remain long after us, watching silently as the world turns. The constellations seem to pulse softly, their patterns timeless and steady. You find comfort in their constancy, a quiet reminder that, even as time flows forward, some things endure. Imagine now that you are lying beneath this vast, starlit sky, the cool earth beneath you cradling your body. The air is gentle on your skin, carrying the scent of jasmine and earth. Above you, the stars twinkle softly, each one a lullaby sung. Across the centuries, your breath slows, matching the steady pulse of the night, your thoughts growing quiet and still. With every breath, feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation. The world around you fades gently, like the soft dimming of cry. Only ruby kiss, I cert, I cries a luxure, has the luxurious texture that glides on smoothly, and leaves a ride long last in color. You are /clies, you are /la/slies, in quals. Well my scowls, / Elise. We are plas. I've said nice, you were not so lad. I not it's size I love I cass it's allies it's odds I make it's a sad I go asic it kids I me get to sikalis I set gets up to get back goat and of I it's me gallop up let it keep up can't this with the lanterns in the temple halls. The river's song hums in the distance, a soothing rhythm that carries you slowly into sleep. The night deepens, and a soft hush falls over the garden and temple alike. The lanterns flicker low, and the river's voice becomes a whisper, merging with the quiet breath of the earth. The stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, watching over this peaceful place. You feel safe here, held by the calm of night and the gentle hands of history. The past and present blend softly, inviting you to rest beneath their quiet grace. The temple garden slowly fades behind you as you follow a narrow, winding path that leads back toward the river's edge. The night air carries a soft chill now, mingled with the earthy scent of wet soil and distant foliage. As you near the water, the gentle lap of waves against the shore greets your ears like a whispered lullaby. Each tiny ripple a soft breath of the river settling into its evening rhythm. The river itself stretches wide and calm beneath the moon's silvery gaze. Its surface mirrors the stars scattered across the vast sky, as though the heavens have dipped their treasures into the flowing water. You step lightly onto a wooden dock that extends quietly over the cool river. The planks smooth beneath your feet, worn by countless footsteps over countless nights. The stillness here is profound. A sacred hush that invites you to slow your breath and soften your thoughts. The cool water glistens gently, reflecting the pale light of the crescent moon as it drifts lazily among the clouds. The trees along the riverbank sway slightly in the gentle breeze, their leaves whispering ancient secrets to one another. Secrets carried on the wind since time immemorial. A small lantern, hung from a post near the dock, flickers softly, casting a warm pool of golden light. The glow invites you to sit on the edge of the dock, your legs dangling just above the water. As you settle into this quiet comfort, the cool night air brushes softly against your skin. A tender caress that deepens your sense of calm. Alaric settles beside you, his voice low and soothing. The river is a keeper of stories, he murmurs. Through the centuries, it has witnessed the lives of those who lived along its banks: fishermen, merchants, travelers, families. Each ripple carries a memory, each wave a whisper from the past. You gaze out over the water, letting the stillness seep into your being. The soft murmur of the river blends with the distant calls of night birds and the rustling of reeds. A gentle chorus of nature's lullaby, inviting you to rest. Rivers were the lifeblood of many ancient communities. They offered not only sustenance and travel, but also a connection to the spiritual world. Many believed that rivers were alive, holding the memories of ancestors and the power of nature itself. Nighttime by the water was often a time for reflection, for quiet ceremonies, or for simply listening to the timeless flow as you sit. Your thoughts begin to drift like leaves on the water's surface. The moon climbs higher, bathing the river in a soft silver light. The cool breeze carries the scent of wildflowers blooming nearby, delicate and faint. Like a whisper in the dark, you lean back slightly, looking up into the wide expanse of the night sky. The stars sparkle with serene clarity, unblemished by the glow of distant fires or bustling cities. The constellations wheel slowly overhead, ancient patterns that have guided travelers and dreamers for millennia. Alaric's voice returns, steady and comforting. Our ancestors looked to the stars to find their way, to mark the seasons, to tell stories. Each star held a meaning, a lesson, a connection. They remind us that even in darkness, there is light, a light that guides, protects, and comforts. The sky seems to pulse gently, a living map of stories written in light. You feel yourself becoming part of this vast tapestry, connected to those who have gazed up before, whose hopes and dreams shimmer alongside the stars. Imagine now lying back on the soft grass beside the riverbank, the earth cool and steady beneath you. The night sky stretches endlessly above, a comforting blanket of twinkling lights. The air is still, filled only with the soft sounds of water. Wind and night creatures settling in their nests. With each breath, feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation. The river's gentle song washes over you, steady and unchanging. The stars pulse softly in rhythm with your heartbeat. Their light a slow, soothing glow. Your thoughts begin to slow, drifting like clouds passing across the moon. The warmth of the lantern's glow fades gently into the distance, replaced by the quiet embrace of night. You are safe here, cradled by the earth and sky, surrounded by the soft whispers of history and nature. The river's song continues, a soft murmur beneath the vast silence. Occasionally, a fish breaks the surface with a delicate splash, rippling the water in tiny, shimmering waves. The cool breeze carries the faint scent of pine and earth, grounding you further into this peaceful moment. You feel the steady rhythm of your breath slow, matching the ebb and flow of the river. Your muscles relax fully, releasing tension with each exhale. The gentle night wraps around you like a silk shawl, comforting and light. Alaric's final words linger in the air, a benediction for your rest. May the river carry your worries away and the stars guide your dreams. Rest now beneath the timeless sky. Closing soft repetition and fade to silence, the river flows gently. The stars shine softly. The night cradles you in quiet calm. Breathe in peace. Breathe out care. Rest beneath the sky, safe and still. The river flows gently. The stars shine softly. You are safe. You are calm. The night cradles you in quiet. Calm, let your thoughts dissolve, your body settle. The river flows gently. The stars shine softly. You are safe. You are calm. Sleep now, under the timeless sky. The final sounds of water and night fade softly into silence, and the world becomes still. The river, the stars, the earth all hold you gently as you drift deeper into sleep. As the twilight deepens and the bustle of the day fades away, you find yourself wandering the silent streets of the ancient city. Though the sounds of daily life have long since ceased, there remains an almost tangible pulse beneath the stillness. Ah! Whisper of stories carried gently by the evening breeze. The worn cobblestones beneath your feet tell of footsteps that have passed this way for centuries, each one a chapter in a sprawling, untold saga of human endeavor, joy, sorrow, and hope. The air holds a faint scent of earth and stone, warmed by the sun that has long dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretch lazily across the facades of weathered buildings, their outlines softened by the dimming light. You might imagine the laughter that once echoed from open windows, the clinking of cups in candlelit rooms, and the whispered secrets shared beneath the watchful gaze of ancient gods and rulers. Though these sounds are now silent, their memories linger in the very fabric of this place as you walk slowly through these deserted lanes. Your breathing begins to match the gentle rhythm of this moment. Inhale deeply, filling your lungs with the cool evening air, and exhale softly, letting go of tension and noise. Each step you take is a step deeper into the past, a gentle passage through time itself. The city, though quiet now, still carries the energy of all who once called it home. Imagine the faces of those long gone, the merchant haggling over prices in the market, the child chasing after a rolling hoop, the craftsman bent over his tools, shaping wood or metal with practiced hands. Their lives were full of small moments, woven together into the great tapestry of history. You are walking alongside them now, sharing a brief, peaceful moment beneath the same starlit sky. The stars begin to emerge overhead, sparkling softly like distant fires kindled in the vastness of the night, each one a silent witness to the passage of time. The constellations have guided travelers, inspired poets, and comforted dreamers for millennia. You might trace their shapes slowly with your eyes, letting your thoughts drift with their gentle glow. The coolness of the night wraps around you, like a soft blanket, inviting calm and rest. Pause here, in this moment, and feel the stillness settle deep within. Imagine the city breathing around you, its heartbeat slow and steady, as if in peaceful slumber. The echoes of past footsteps mingle with the sigh of the night wind through the trees, creating a lullaby sung softly to those who listen. Though the city is quiet now, it was once alive with color and sound. Markets thrummed with the rhythm of haggling voices and the shuffle of feet. The aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the scent of herbs and spices, carried on warm air that kissed the skin. Children's laughter rang out from courtyards, and the melodies of minstrels drifted from taverns, weaving stories into the fabric of the night. Each of these moments, though faded into silence, still rests within the stones and shadows. You can almost hear the murmur of those bygone days if you listen closely, whispers of hope and fear, triumph and loss woven into the enduring silence. Let your breath deepen as you absorb this scene. Inhale slowly through your nose, filling your lungs with the cool, tranquil air. Exhale gently, releasing any lingering tension or restlessness. Feel your body growing heavier, grounded by the connection to this peaceful place. Consider the passage of time itself, river flowing steadily onward, carrying with it the stories of countless lives. You are part of this continuum now, a quiet observer resting on the banks of history. The legacy of those who lived here before is a soft glow illuminating the path beneath your feet, guiding you gently toward rest as your eyes begin to grow heavy. Imagine the lanterns flickering dimly in distant windows, casting warm pools of light onto ancient walls. The gentle crackle of a hearth fire offers comfort in the cooling night, a reminder of home and hearth. The world slows, and you move in harmony with its unhurried rhythm. This moment invites you to release the worries of the day, to soften the edges of your thoughts. Drift with the gentle night air as the city's long story wraps around you like a soothing cloak. Each breath is a thread weaving calmness through your mind and body, preparing you for deep, restful sleep. Though these streets now lie silent, their legacy remains alive in the stillness. Imagine that legacy as a soft light, flickering and glowing, quietly offering warmth and peace. It is a connection to the countless souls who walked here before, a gentle reminder that life, in all its complexity, is an enduring dance of beginnings and endings. As you settle deeper into this reflection, feel the steady pulse of history under your feet. The worn stones, the ancient trees, the quiet echoes all hold a sacred space for your dreams to wander freely. Allow your mind to float gently on this sea of calm, the weight of the day slipping away like a soft tide retreating from the shore. With every breath, you sink further into this tranquil world. Your muscles relax, your heartbeat slows, and your thoughts become lighter. The stories of old fold softly around you, a lullaby sung by time itself. In this peaceful twilight, the city becomes a sanctuary, a place where past and present meet quietly beneath the watchful stars. You are safe here, cradled by history's gentle embrace, ready to drift toward sleep with calm and ease. Take a final deep breath in and slowly breathe out. Feel the calm spreading from your chest, down through your arms, into your legs and toes. Your whole body is relaxed, at peace, and ready to rest as your eyes close. Imagine the streets fading softly into darkness, leaving only the memory of their gentle life beneath the night sky. The city sleeps now, and so do you. The night has deepened now. The air is cooler, still carrying the faint aroma of old wood, dry stone, and the distant sweetness of blooming night jasmine. It clings gently to your skin, just enough to remind you that you are walking in a place where time no longer moves as it once did. Somewhere far away, the echo of a water channel trickles quietly through the darkened city. Sound so soft it might be mistaken for the breathing of the stones themselves. You pause, letting the silence envelop you, and for a moment, it feels as though the walls around you lean closer, listening to dot above. The sky is a tapestry of stars, scattered like grains of silver dust across velvet. Their stillness feels eternal, and yet, they too have moved imperceptibly across the heavens since the days when the people here tilted their heads back, much as you do now, to find comfort in their glow. They might have traced these same constellations with a finger in the air, telling stories to a child curled sleepily at their side, or marking the passing of the seasons. In this quiet hour, you begin to imagine the city not as it is now, but as it was. You picture a warm summer night centuries ago, the streets alive with soft lamplight, the murmur of neighbors exchanging words from doorways, the faint strum of a lute, or the steady beat of a drum somewhere deeper in the winding alleys. Vendors might still be closing their stalls, tucking away their goods and sweeping dust from their thresholds. The smell of bread baking in a clay oven would drift into the streets, mingling with the sharper tang of citrus and the herbal scent of fresh mint. These sensations arrive in your mind not as sharp images, but as gentle impressions, like ripples. Moving outward in a pond, you slow your steps. The uneven stones under your feet feel warm in places, cool in others, as if they have absorbed the sun's heat during the day and now release it in tiny breaths into the darkness. A faint wind stirs at your back, bringing with it an almost ghost-like murmur, the suggestion of ancient voices. They are not speaking to you directly, but their presence is undeniable, woven into the very texture of this place. It is here, in this moment, that you sense the weight and beauty of the legacy left behind. Each building, each weathered step, each faint carving in the wall tells you something about the hands that shaped it. The people who lived here were not so different from you, full of hopes they tried to protect, burdens they tried to carry lightly, and joys they savored when they came. You let yourself imagine one life, then another. Perhaps a scribe, long ago, worked by the flicker of an oil lamp inside a room lined with scrolls. The ink on his fingers smudged as he leaned in, recording the transactions of the day or transcribing a poem meant to outlive him. Outside, the sound of night insects drifted through the open window, and the moonlight touched the edge of his work table like a blessing. Or perhaps a young woman, standing in a courtyard, poured water from a clay jug into a basin, her sleeves rolled to her elbows. She hummed softly to herself, her voice mingling with the quiet splash of water. Overhead, vines crept along the lattice, their leaves trembling in the evening breeze. She was unaware, in that moment, of the centuries that would pass before someone. Like you would picture her here. You walk on, the rhythm of your steps matching the slow beat of your heart. The path narrows, winding between tall walls that almost touch above your head. The light of the stars narrows too, but it is enough to see the smooth curve of the passageway, the chipped edges of the walls where time has worn them away. In places, small tufts of moss grow between the stones, their green softened by shadow. Somewhere above, a bird shifts on its perch, rustling its feathers before falling still again. The deeper you move into these old streets, the more the noise of the outside world fades away. Here, the past feels close enough to touch. You run your fingers lightly along a wall, feeling the irregular surface beneath your skin, each indentation and ridge a quiet record of the years. Your fingertips come away carrying the faint scent of dust and lime. You close your eyes for a moment, imagining all the hands that might have touched this same wall. A child steadying themselves as they chased a friend. An elder pausing to rest. A lover trailing their hand idly while lost in thought. Every place holds the memory of those who lived in it. But here, that memory feels unbroken. You notice how the air has grown cooler. Somewhere not far away, perhaps just beyond the wall to your right, there is the scent of water, fresh, moving water. The thought is soothing. You follow the curve of the lane until you reach an open courtyard where moonlight spills in unhindered dot. In its center lies a fountain, still running after all these centuries. The water glimmers as it rises and falls, the sound delicate yet steady. You move closer, leaning over to watch the ripples spread across the surface before vanishing again into stillness. For a moment, imagine all the times this fountain has been a gathering place where neighbors met to speak in the evening, where children played at chasing their reflections, where lovers exchanged glances across the water. Each drop that falls into the basin feels like an echo from the past, and each ripple seems to carry a quiet blessing. You sit on the edge of the fountain, letting your hands rest on the cool stone. The night air moves gently against your skin, and the rhythm of the water becomes the rhythm of your thoughts, slow, unhurried, patient. Somewhere above, the moon has risen higher, casting a pale silver light across the courtyard. It illuminates the worn flagstones, the soft folds of vines draped along the walls, the gentle curve of an old wooden door. There is no rush here, no need for movement. You breathe deeply, your eyes half closing. The quiet of this place seeps into you as if the centuries themselves are offering you rest. The sounds you hear now, the fountain's murmur, the sigh of the wind are not so different from the sounds someone might have heard here 1,000 years ago. It is a reminder of how little changes in the most essential rhythms of life. Water flows, wind moves, stars burn quietly in the sky. The people may pass, but these things endure. And so, too, does the peace they bring. You remain there for as long as you wish, letting time drift without concern. There is no urgency, only the steady presence of this moment. When at last you rise, it is with the unhurried grace of someone who has been steeped in calm. The streets beyond are just as silent, but now they feel even softer, as though they recognize you as a friend. The shadows no longer seem deep, they are merely folds in the city's blanket of rest, and you, too, are ready to rest. Your steps grow slower, your breathing deeper. The memory of the fountain lingers in your mind, its rhythm weaving itself into your thoughts like a gentle lullaby. Somewhere in the quiet, you feel the city's story folding itself around you, protective, comforting, endlessly patient. The night is yours now, and so is the peace it carries. The city feels different now, not because its walls or streets have changed, but because your own presence has settled into it more completely. The stones, the shadows, the faint shimmer of the moonlight, these no longer feel like unfamiliar sights to be observed from the outside. They feel as though they are part of a world you have always known. A world that has been quietly waiting for you to walk its streets once more. You drift along a wide lane now, its paving stones smoother than those of the narrower alleys. The air here carries a trace of something faintly sweet, like honey diluted in cool water. You follow the scent without hurry, letting it guide you forward until you come upon a low terrace lined with shallow steps. Beyond it lies an open expanse, a garden that seems almost luminous under the pale sky. It is not the kind of garden that bursts with bright flowers or grand arrangements. This one is subtle, serene. Rows of cypress trees stand like sentinels along the edges, their narrow forms swaying gently in the night breeze. Between them, stretches of soft grass lead to small groves where the moonlight falls in silver patches. The air hums quietly with the sound of crickets, their rhythm steady and soothing. You take a step into the garden, and the scent grows stronger. Somewhere among the shadows, blossoms of night-blooming jasmine have opened, their petals releasing fragrance into the cool darkness. You move toward them, passing under an archway of carved stone that frames the path ahead. The ground beneath your feet is soft here, the stones replaced by earth and moss. You can hear the faint rustle of leaves high above, mingled with the distant murmur of water. It is in this place that you begin to think again of the lives that once passed through here. The garden feels as though it was meant for quiet reflection, perhaps for moments at the end of the day when the heat had faded and the city's heartbeat slowed. You can picture a scholar seated on one of the stone benches near the cypress grove, reading a scroll by lamplight while the night air cooled the skin of his hands. Or perhaps a musician sitting cross-legged on the grass, letting the strings of a lute hum softly into the darkness, each note fading like a ripple across still water. Every part of the garden seems to invite memory. You run your fingers along the trunk of a tree, its bark textured and cool. Somewhere inside, it is a history far older than your own seasons of rain and drought. Storms endured, countless nights when the stars watched from above. You wonder if the people who tended this place thought of the trees as companions, the way one might think of an old friend whose presence is always steady, is always reassuring. The path curves gently to the right, leading you toward the sound of water. Soon you find it a narrow stream, its surface rippling under the moon's reflection. The water is so clear that you can see pale stones resting beneath it, worn smooth by time. You crouch at the edge and trail your fingertips through the cool current. The sensation is startlingly vivid. the sharp clarity of the chill, the way the water curls around your fingers before slipping past. And yet, as soon as you withdraw your hand, the stream returns to its quiet flow, unbothered by your presence. It has been moving this way for centuries, serving the garden, feeding the roots, offering a place for those who pass by to pause and breathe. You sit by the stream for a while, letting the sound of the water settle into your mind. The current's rhythm is slow but constant, a reminder that even in stillness there is movement, and even in movement there can be calm. Somewhere nearby, an owl calls a low, resonant sound that seems to deepen the quiet rather than disturb it. The branches above sway lightly, and a few leaves drift down. Turning gently in the air before settling on the grass, you find your gaze drawn upward again, toward the night sky. From here in the garden, away from the narrow streets and high walls, you can see more stars than before. They spill across the darkness in constellations that have not changed since the days when this city was new. The people who walked these gardens long ago would have seen them to recognizing the shapes, telling stories to explain their light. Perhaps lovers once traced the lines between stars with a fingertip in the air, whispering to each other about distant gods or mythical creatures. Perhaps travelers looked up to chart their journeys using the sky as a map. Or perhaps, as you do now, someone simply gazed at them in stillness, letting the vastness remind them of how small and yet how precious each life truly is. You rise again, moving deeper into the garden. The path widens, leading you toward a small pavilion of carved stone. Its roof is supported by slender pillars, and though the paint that once adorned it has faded, the designs etched into its surface remain clear patterns of vines, flowers, and flowing water inside the pavilion. The floor is made of polished stone that reflects the moonlight in a faint shimmer. A low bench runs along the inner wall, worn smooth by countless visitors who have rested here. You sit, feeling the coolness of the stone seep through the fabric of your clothing. From here, the garden stretches out in all directions. You can see the cypress trees forming their quiet boundary, the stream winding like silver thread through the grass, the open spaces where moonlight pools. It feels as though you are at the center of something both vast and intimate. You close your eyes for a while. The sounds around you, crickets, water, the whisper of leaves, become a single, continuous song. Time feels slower here, each moment unfolding gently, without demand. When you open your eyes again, you notice something you had not before. Small lanterns placed discreetly along parts of the path, their light faint but warm. They are not lit now, but you imagine how they would glow on an evening centuries ago, guiding late walkers through the garden. The thought makes you smile softly. Even the smallest acts of care, placing a lantern, tending a tree, sweeping a path, are a kind of legacy. And that is what this place is, a collection of legacies, large and small, woven together into something that endures long after the hands that shaped it are gone. You rise from the pavilion and follow the path toward a distant archway. As you pass under it, the garden begins to fade behind you, replaced by the hushed stillness of another quiet lane. You carry the memory of the garden with you, the scent of jasmine, the feel of water against your skin, the sound of the crickets like a lullaby. The lane ahead curves gently, its walls lower here, allowing you to see more of the sky. You walk slowly, your steps unhurried, letting the rhythm of your breath match the slow passage of the night in the distance. You see the outline of another courtyard, its open gate inviting you onward. The moonlight gathers there, spilling across the ground like a pale river. You move toward it, knowing that wherever you go in this ancient city, the past will walk quietly beside you, and in that companionship be the gentle presence of all that came before. You find a deep, unshakable peace. The courtyard ahead opens before you, bathed in the pale wash of moonlight. Its ground is a patchwork of stone and soft moss, the kind that springs back slowly beneath the weight of each step. A fountain sits at the center, its basin, broad and shallow, carved from a single piece of dark stone worn smooth by centuries of flowing water. The stream that once fed it is quiet now, leaving the basin still. Its surface a perfect mirror for the stars above. You pause at its edge, gazing down. The reflection there is so clear that for a moment it feels as though you could step into it, into that inverted sky where the moon glows brighter and the stars seem almost within reach. Your own outline is faint in the water, mingling with the shapes of clouds drifting slowly overhead. Around the fountain, clusters of potted plants rest in the corners, their ceramic containers painted with delicate patterns faded by the years. Some hold slender bamboo that sways with the breeze, their tall stalks creaking softly. Others cradle wide-leafed plants whose shadows lie heavy against the stones. The air here is cooler, touched by the faint earthy scent of damp moss and old stone. There's a bench against one wall, its wood darkened and smooth with age. You imagine someone sitting there on a night long past, a candle at their side, writing a letter by hand. Perhaps it was a letter to a loved one far away, a sister, a son, a friend they would not see for months. The words might have been careful, deliberate, the ink glistening faintly under the flame as thoughts turned into lines that crossed the page. You take a seat yourself, letting the old wood cradle your back. From here, the sounds of the night are more noticeable. Somewhere beyond the courtyard walls, a faint murmur of distant voices drifts through the air, low, unhurried, like friends speaking after a long day. It blends with the sarang of cicadas, the occasional soft clink of ceramic from a neighboring house, the whisper of the wind stirring the plants. For a while, you simply breathe in the quiet. The space feels almost suspended in time, not abandoned, but resting. The kind of rest that comes not from exhaustion, but from a deep satisfaction in having endured. Your gaze drifts upward to the wall behind the bench. The plaster there is, cracked in places, revealing the stone beneath. Faint traces of paint remain, swirls of deep blue, fragments of golden patterns. Perhaps once it depicted a scene, a great river, a mountain, the curve of the sun. Now it is only suggestion, leaving the rest to the imagination. You run your fingers lightly along the worn surface. The wall is cool, and the edges of the cracks are rough. Somewhere inside these stones, there is a memory of the hands that laid them in place, the voices that passed nearby when they were new. Each stone feels like a quiet witness, holding its silence through the passing centuries. When you rise again, your steps are slow, almost reluctant to disturb the stillness. You circle the fountain, pausing once more to glance at the stars in its reflection. Then make your way toward the far side of the courtyard, where an open archway leads onward. Beyond it lies a narrow walkway, bordered by low hedges. Small lantern hooks line the walls here, though the lanterns themselves are gone. In their place, shadows fall in long diagonal stripes across the path. The night breeze feels cooler against your skin now, and you sense the air shifting as you move toward a larger, more open space. And then, it appears a wide terrace that overlooks the city. The terrace floor is made of broad tiles, some of them chipped, others darkened by the passing of countless feet. The edge is guarded by a low stone railing, its surface worn smooth where many hands have rested. From here, the view stretches far and wide. Beneath you, the rooftops of the city form a patchwork of sloping tiles and flat platforms. Between them, narrow lanes wind like veins through the sleeping heart of the city. A few lights still glow. In the distance, faint, amber-like sparks that refuse to fade into the dark. Beyond the city walls, the land opens into dark fields, and further still, you can make out the faint glimmer of a river winding through the night. Its surface catches the moonlight in broken fragments, like scattered pieces of silver. You rest your arms on the stone railing and let your eyes wander across it all. In the quiet, it is easy to imagine the city as it once was, alive with sound and motion even at this hour. Merchants closing their stalls, guards making their rounds, neighbors exchanging a final word before turning in for the night. The same river winding into the distance, the same stars watching from above. Time changes so much the faces, the voices, the buildings, but it also preserves certain rhythms. Somewhere in this city tonight, a mother soothes her child to sleep. Somewhere, a poet scratches out the final lines of a verse. Somewhere, a lone traveler listens to the night and wonders what tomorrow will bring. You let these thoughts linger like the warm scent of tea in a cooling cup. Then, your attention shifts upward again. The stars seem even clearer from here, spread across the deep velvet of the sky in a way that feels both infinite and familiar. Some shine sharp and bright, others softer, like embers fading in the distance. There's a particular peace in realizing that these same constellations were seen by those who came before, and will be seen by those who come long after. Generations have looked to them for guidance, for comfort, for stories to explain their glow. And here you are, part of that long, unbroken chain of watchers under the same sky. You stay at the terrace for a long while, the railing cool under your palms, the quiet wrapping around you like a soft shawl. The city below seems to breathe slowly, each rise and fall of its slumber in tune with your own. When you finally turn to leave, you take one last glance at the moon, hanging low and luminous over the rooftops. Its light will follow you through the streets, a silent companion until the night's end. The walkway back is even quieter now. Your steps sound softer, your breath slower. You return to the courtyard, passing once again by the fountain, the plants, the cracked wall. They seem unchanged, yet there is a sense that you have taken something from the moss stillness, a memory that will stay with you. And as you step out into the lane beyond, you feel the night settling deeper, the city holding you in its calm embrace as though guiding you gently toward the edge of dreams. The lane you step into is narrow and dim, its cobblestones cool beneath your feet. Overhead, wooden beams stretch between the upper floors of the buildings on either side, making the passage feel enclosed like a quiet tunnel of time. A few stray petals drift down from a balcony above, carried by the faintest stir of wind. They fall soundlessly, coming to rest against the stones, pale shapes barely visible in the moonlight. Somewhere far off, a night bird calls once a single note, soft and low, before silence swallows it again. You walk slowly, each step measured, letting the stillness soak in. There is no rush here. The city at night feels almost like a living memory, its edges softened, its colors muted to shades of silver and shadow. Soon, the lane widens into a small square. At its center stands an ancient tree, its trunk thick and gnarled, the bark etched with countless lines. Lanterns once hung from its branches, but now only the hooks remain, catching the moonlight like faint points of silver. The ground around the tree is bare, worn smooth by generations of footsteps. You pause beside it, resting your hand against the trunk. The wood feels solid, steady and moved by the years that have passed. How many seasons has it witnessed? How many conversations has it overheard in the still hours of night? Somewhere in its roots are the echoes of laughter, of quiet farewells, of whispered promises. From here, a set of steps leads upward toward one of the outer gates. You climb them at an unhurried pace, each rise bringing more of the night sky into view. The gate itself is a tall, arched structure of dark wood, bound with iron. Its doors are closed, but the smaller side passage is open, revealing a glimpse of the world beyond. Stepping through, you find yourself outside the city walls. The ground here is a mix of dirt and stone, the path leading gently downward toward the open plain. The air feels different, cooler, lighter, carrying the scent of grass and river water. You follow the path until you reach a rise where you can see the river clearly. It moves slowly tonight, a dark ribbon catching threads of moonlight. The sound it makes is low and steady, like the slow breathing of something vast and ancient. You sit on a smooth rock near the bank. From here, the city looks smaller, its walls outlined in silver, its rooftops a cluster of dark shapes against the pale glow of the sky. The faint flicker of a torchlight here and there is the only sign that life still stirs within. There's a deep calm in this distance in seeing the city as a whole, as though it were a single, resting being. You think of the countless nights like this it has known, the way the river has always flowed past, carrying with it both the memory of what has been and the quiet promise of what is yet to come. The water murmurs softly as it moves around small stones, each ripple catching the moonlight before fading back into shadow. The rhythm is slow, unchanging, the kind that lulls the mind into stillness. You lean back slightly, letting your gaze drift upward to the stars. Here, away from the walls, they are brighter, crowded together in shimmering clusters, scattered across the dark. You can trace faint patterns between them, the same shapes that travelers long ago might have followed when making their way through unknown lands. The night has grown deeper now, the air cooler. You draw in a long, slow breath, feeling the quiet settle into you completely. Each sound seems softer, each shadow gentler, each thought slower to form. Somewhere across the river, in the dark fields, a faint glow sees a farmer tending to an early task, or perhaps the watchfire of a lone traveler. It flickers for a moment, then steadies, a small, warm point in the cool expanse of the night. You imagine the lives still moving quietly around you. Someone closing a window against the breeze, another placing a log on the fire, another lying in bed, listening to the same slow song of the river. These unseen moments feel like threads connecting you to the countless lives that have shared nights like this. Time stretches here, unhurried. Minutes might pass, or hours, it is hard to tell. The night is patient, and so are you. The moon begins its slow descent toward the horizon, its light taking on a softer hue. The river reflects it in long, wavering streaks that shift and fade with each movement of the water. Somewhere in the reeds, a small creature rustles, then goes still again. You find yourself thinking of the people who walked this riverbank centuries ago, perhaps a royal messenger pausing to rest on his journey, perhaps a scholar pacing slowly, shaping words in his mind, perhaps someone simply seeking the same thing you are, now quiet. Stillness, a moment outside of time. The air carries the faintest scent of flowers from the fields. It is subtle, barely there, but it mixes with the cool smell of water and stone. The longer you sit, the more the night seems to deepen around you. Your breathing slows to match the river's rhythm. Your thoughts drift like the clouds above, soft, unhurried, moving without effort. When you finally stand, it is with no sense of urgency. The city is still there in the distance, the trees still standing in the square, the courtyard still quiet, the terrace still watching over the rooftops. You could return to them, or you could stay here at the edge of the water. Either way, the night will hold you. You take one last look at the river, its surface shimmering faintly in the moon's fading light, and then you close your eyes for a moment. The sounds remain, the steady flow of water, the faint rustle of the breeze, the quiet hum of the world at rest. It feels as though you could stay in this moment forever, suspended between wakefulness and sleep, between memory and dream. The city behind you, the river before you, and the stars above, each a constant, each a reminder of the long, unbroken passage of time. And as your thoughts grow softer, your breath slower, the night folds itself around you completely, carrying you gently toward rest. The journey is complete. The city you have wandered through, with its narrow streets and ancient courtyards, begins to fade gently into the background of your mind. You are no longer moving through its gates or tracing the flow of its quiet river. Instead, you are watching it from a distance, as if it is part of a warm, unbroken dream. Its rooftops are bathed in moonlight, its streets are still, and the lantern light in the far corners glows softly, like embers slowly fading to ash. The air around you feels softer now, the breeze lighter, the sounds more distant. There is nothing here that asks for your attention, nothing that needs to be done. You have seen all that there is to see tonight, and now your only task is to rest on. In your mind's eye, you let the image of the city drift further away. The outlines of its walls blur, the rooftops melt into the night sky, and the river becomes a thin silver thread dissolving into shadow. You feel yourself floating above. It no longer bound to the roads you walked or the places you explored. The city becomes part of the dream world, a safe and timeless place that will always remain, ready to welcome you back whenever you wish to return. But for now, you are moving beyond it, into a space that belongs only to rest and peace. The air feels warmer here, as though you have stepped into a place where the night itself is a soft blanket. Your body is sinking deeper into comfort. Any small tension you were holding onto begins to ease. Your shoulders feel heavier, gently melting into the surface beneath you. Your arms and legs grow warm and still. Your breathing naturally slows, and you find yourself moving deeper into stillness without even trying. Each breath feels fuller, deeper, and more effortless as you breathe in. Imagine you are gathering the last faint traces of moonlight from the city behind you. As you breathe out, imagine releasing them into the open air, letting them dissolve completely. You have no need to carry them now. They are part of the night, part of the dream. You are safe here, in this space between waking and sleep. The stars above you are steady and bright, but even they seem to be slowing in their motion, as though time itself is growing quieter. You notice the deep, soothing rhythm of the world around you, the silent arc of the constellations, the slow pull of the moon toward the horizon, the faint ripple of water somewhere far away. All of it is gentle, all of it unhurried. This is the world's way of telling you it is time to rest. Your mind begins to drift. The images of the city fade further, replaced by softer shapes, perhaps the curve of a distant hill, or the faint outline of a boat drifting down a silent river. These visions are not fixed. They shift like the surface of the water, changing without effort, without reason. You are simply watching them pass, not needing to follow, not needing to hold on. Each one carries you further into the calm. The weight of the day, even the quiet day you have spent in this story, is lifting now. Your body feels supported. Your mind feels unburdened. All that remains is a warm, steady sense of safety. The kind of safety that lets every muscle relax completely, that lets every thought become slower, softer, more distant. And so the world grows quieter. The air feels even warmer. The rhythm of your breath becomes the only movement you are aware of. Slow, deep, steady, in and out. In and out. Each exhale takes you deeper. Each inhale fills you with calm. There is no need to think about it. Your body knows exactly what to do. Now you are floating. Not in water, not in air. Not in air, just floating in a stillness so complete that even the idea of movement has faded. You feel weightless, as though the surface beneath you is no longer there, as though you are suspended in a space made entirely of comfort and peace. Your thoughts, if they still appear at all, come as faint whispers, soft and far away. They pass like clouds drifting across a night sky, changing shape and then disappearing. You don't need to listen to them. You don't need to follow them. You simply watch them fade. This is your place of rest. You are safe here. You are warm. Here, nothing can disturb you. You are cradled in the stillness of the night, in the soft hush that follows the long journey. The roads you walked, the gates you passed, the courtyards you explored, they are all far behind you now. You carry nothing forward but the peace you found there as you sink deeper. The edges of the dream world begin to dissolve too. The stars fade, the river vanishes. Even the gentle glow of the moon becomes dimmer, softer, until it is no more than a memory of light. You are surrounded only by quiet now. Quiet so deep it feels like the world has stopped. You might notice, even now, that your breathing has slowed even more. Each inhale is long and full. Each exhale is a complete release. Your heart moves at a slow, steady rhythm, unhurried. Your muscles have given up their weight entirely to the stillness. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to prepare for all is done, all is well. All is quiet, and so you rest. In this space, time no longer matters. The night can stretch on as far as it needs to. The city will remain in its gentle slumber. The river will continue to flow. The stars will still be there when morning comes. But you are already somewhere deeper. Somewhere the day cannot reach. Somewhere the noise of the world cannot enter. Your breath continues to guide you, in and out, in and out. A slow tide carrying you further into sleep. The deeper you go, the softer everything becomes. The softer it becomes, the deeper you go. Soon you are barely aware of the words. They are just sounds now, drifting into the background like the faintest music. Your mind no longer holds on to them. It doesn't need to. You are already on the edge of dreams, and here, at the edge, you take one last, slow, deep breath. And then let it out completely. Every muscle is loose, every thought is far away. And you are ready to let go completely, to step fully into the dream world, where the journey continues in silence. You are safe. You are at peace. You are home in the stillness. The night holds you. The night keeps you. The night carries you. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep well. The journey is complete. The city fades into dreams. You are safe and at peace.